Hey, what's up, Kelly? Welcome back
Hi.
to another episode. I'm randomly Ronnie Jr. As I mentioned, that's Kelly. Back for episode, I think 41. We are doing a
Wow.
great job. I enjoy doing the podcast with you. I just enjoy talking to you and finding out how your energy level is. And just, I don't know, do you feel cute today? Do you feel sassy today? Do you feel grumpy today? I'm trying to assess this for me as well. But what about you?
It's been a day, I'll say. It's been a day, it's been a week, it's been. So I'm a little grumpy, I'm a little sassy, I'm a little like trying to be in a really good mood.
Everything I just
But when
described.
when I talk to you, it always lightens the mood. So
Yeah. I really am proud because when I look back at our older episodes, there'll be times, and I think this is the way it works with any creative process. When you're creating it, I will feel like we missed the boat or we did something wrong or we were too quick with this topic or not enough with
hmm
this one. And then I go back and watch it and I'm generally pretty freaking proud. There's a couple that I don't always feel that way, but it has been much more like oh god, if I go back and look at that, it's not going to be what I expected, even technically or whatever. And it's
right.
always like I'm really impressed with the work. So
Well,
kudos to you.
good. And to you too. I mean, it wouldn't be what it is without you.
Well, thank you very much. I do want to tell you real quick, or we should start it off with the show here. Give me 1 second because I want to tell you about.
And don't mind
Um,
me, I'm just sipping a little here.
oh, okay. We have so many things in I guess the docket that it's like I'm like, what am I going to tell her? I need to find what I'm going to tell you. This is what it is. So Viridian Row never goes out of style. This is our sponsor for the episode, so I figured we'd show them love right off the top. So go to viridianrow.com and purchase all of their great stuff because they've got a lot of really great things, be it the quote t-shirts, some of the artsy stuff that they have as well. Kelly, did you want to take it over? Small business
I
support, I mean, come
no, I
on.
love it. I was actually, especially considering what we're going to talk about today, I have this great quote shirt that they made for me and I couldn't find it. So again, that added to my little grumpiness today, but it's
Okay.
okay because it would all jump in. But if you're a movie buff, movie lover, television show, you love like those fun one-liners that we can quote all day. Get it on a shirt, get it on a bag, put it on a mug. I mean, they do some really great work and it's super fun.
Yeah, and supposedly I'm gonna be having a mug soon. So when I do the episode, like right now, I have a just a regular glass, and it's my
Yeah.
smoothie, which hmm
I know. It's
I
like I'm in the
enjoy.
Christmas spirit already.
But soon enough, I'm gonna start having Viridian Row, like a mug or a hat or a shirt or whatever, because it's
hmm
really nice that they sponsored us. That's number one. It feels good to have people that like you. That's all I'm saying.
It does.
Because it
That
doesn't
it
always
does.
happen. Okay, Kelly. Um, I'm taking a beat here. We're gonna do a slower show, but we're gonna get it done nice and quick and easy. What we're gonna talk about today, if you agree with this, is we're gonna go back and be mesmerized by this genre of. Well, first, before we do the genre, we are in our 40s. We always say we were, kids of the 80s, born in the
Ronnie
80s.
does not like to let that go. He loves to reiterate that we are in our
Does it bug
40s.
you?
A little.
Oh, it's my favorite thing
I
because I
know
feel
it's your
like
favorite thing.
I
I know.
want to give, not
But
saying
no.
not saying an audience can't like us if they're in their 20s, but I
hmm
want to give, like, because there's so few of these shows, or there's people our age, but none of them like represent or proud of it. So I'm like, we're gonna give you a show that kind of takes it back towards like what made us
hmm
who we are,
No, totally.
styles, trends, growing up and feeling insecure or feeling confident. Who knows who you used to be, and versus who you are. But
hmm
it occurred to me that there was this huge genre of film back in the day. And
hmm
as 80s babies, as I said, we got to really bask in it. And I know you love most of these more than even me. The 80s
Oh,
quintessential, like
yes.
funny, cutesy high school movie. Can you expound on some of your favorites of the genre? And then we're going to navigate and weave through just the culture and the demographic of this type of film.
I mean, there are so many. Of course, all the John Hughes movies were fantastic from The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Heathers. Heathers was a good one, and they did a remake TV show or or something. I haven't watched the new one, but Heather's was dark and twisted and fantastic. I mean, Teen Witch was one of my favorites. Who, fun fact, the lead in Teen Witch is Blake Lively's older sister, Robin Lively.
Mm,
And Teen Witch,
okay.
I mean, the top that rap between her best friend and like the hot guy she likes at school, total. I mean, if you have not YouTube that top that rap, do it immediately because it is so amazing. It's ridiculous, and I love everything about it.
Can I give you guilty of not watching? I should, and I can't believe I haven't. I didn't. I never ever watched Heather's, even though I want to watch it so badly.
What?
Shannon
And yours,
Doherty is
yeah, Shannon, that's your girl. I'm so
um
surprised.
I'm only copping to it just the same way I cop to being in our 40s. I feel like our show is a show of keeping it real. You're gonna like us for who we are.
Hmm.
But that whole genre was just really great. And at the time when those came out, those films came out, it was Can't Buy Me Love was another one. And I always
Hmm.
thought it was so interesting because you and I are both the eldest. Like we're older siblings,
Right.
so I don't know if you caught this too. But when I would look at these movies, they were like a cooler older brother or older cousin because I didn't have that like in the household or whatever the case. So
Hmm.
to see these movies were like, oh wow, like the guys that Stand By Me, like look at their journey. They're a little bit older than me, but like that's what's the future. The Breakfast Club in particular, same feeling. So in some way, I don't want to say that we were what do you call it, raised off these 80s films, but in some way they like kind of prepped you for like, oh wow, when I get older, like that's gonna be crazy. Did you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, there were so many characters that I aspired to be, and so many fashion looks and haircuts and attitudes and just like style of carrying yourself. And a lot of the main messages in a lot of these movies were so interesting going back and watching them now, because they're there's a lot of insecurity that they show, a lot of feeling like an outcast and feeling like you're not good enough, and that the cute boy you liked is not going to like you, and all these little things about adolescence and being a young adult and being in middle school, high school, and going to dances and just kind of living every day. It goes through all of those emotions, and to be able to watch that while you're living it was such a cool thing that we were able to do, because it was so relatable on such a kind of like PG level. It was just like it went there, but not like too far,
Mm.
which was nice.
When you think of all of these Breakfast Club, Stand By Me, Ferris Bueller's, Heather's,
Hmm.
Weird Science, which one is an absolute favorite for you, or which one do you constantly recommend? Bill and
Oh
Ted's Excellent
gosh.
Adventure, or even Can't Buy Me Love, or what did you say? You stated Adventures in Babysittings. We were
Yeah.
texting about. Which one really does it for you?
Oh, I mean, I can't just pick one. I mean, Some Kind of Wonderful is, I used to watch that over and over. I absolutely love that movie. And one of the greatest things about that movie in particular is that it's centered around a guy. Like
Mm,
the guy was the main character that felt out of touch and really liked this girl. And it was kind of spoiler alert, it was kind of like they were playing a trick on him for her to ask him out, and it's like a whole thing.
mm,
And he's got the girl best friend that's helping him out, and it was like the role reversal, which I really liked about that story, because guys can be vulnerable too and go through all the same things, and it was nice to see it from that side. So similar, Can't Buy Me Love was similar to that,
yeah.
where they were kind of using each other for different things. And then, the Teen Witch again was just one of my favorites because it was, little, you had the magic element, and, realizing, do you really want to be popular? Is it really that big of a deal? Or do you really want to know who your friends are? And
Yeah.
that's an interesting when you dig deep into it. But then you've got, 16 Candles, where it's the younger sister who has a really pretty popular older sister and all the struggles that she goes through. And then lo and behold, you know, the hot guy likes her and she can't believe it. And it just kind of flips her world upside down. And it's so interesting, like all of those things that we go through as kids. And even License to Drive. We got the Coreys. The Coreys did a lot of great movies back in the day that I used to watch a lot. And
Yeah. they were
in
all
that.
so good, and they did, I think, shaped kind of who our generation. We were talking recently on an episode where it was like, there's all these names for generations, but I always say, no, Kelly, we were the MTV generation. Like, we were a
Mhm.
very specific different thing. And to be somebody in our 40s, which I always have to shower and sprinkle to Kelly no matter what, it is these things we could look back with a badge of honor. Like, this is for us. This was the programming that was for us. This is the movies and the film and TV that made us really excited, and happy, and even question certain things.
Well, because the 80s movies and TV shows, that was us in elementary school in the early, going into middle school.
Yeah.
Because like the 90s was
Right.
when we were like middle school going into high school. So all these
Yeah.
characters were just a little bit older. Like, they were older than us. So it
Yeah.
was kind of like what to expect when we get there,
Yeah.
and kind of setting us up for what we might face as we go into these new
And
phases of life.
they're always slightly different, but for me, I'm a decade, like I always turn 30 at the at the top of the decade, and 40,
Mhm.
and so on, 20, whatever, and 50 in a couple years. No, I'm joking. But so yeah, it always feels like, this was, the movies that we looked at back in the day. And so one of the things we're going to do today is just kind of look at the difference between the stuff from way back, when we didn't know anything. We're watching Full House and Family Matters, as just, whatever. And then as we become teenagers, and as we become, in your late teens and young
Mhm.
adulthood, and how it matched with some of the stuff. So I guess we're going to take an exploration on 90s coming of age, back when we were in high school, class of 98. Woo woo.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
were you? What were you? What were
Yeah,
you?
class of 98.
No, you were not.
I was too.
But you're significantly older than me. You can't
I'm
be.
not significantly older than you. F you. Now, my birthday's in December. So
You are not
uh,
class of 98. I've
I
known
am
you for 20 years.
absolutely class of 98.
Oh no. You didn't say woo 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 when I
I
did it.
did. I said yes. Me
I think
too. I am 100% class of 98.
you all,
Look it up.
I think she's lying to me, and I don't think she's the first and only person, because I was recently talking to another mutual friend, Kelly, I'll tell you after, who
Mhm.
I was asking her some stuff, and she's like, telling me she's closer to my age, and I'm like, no, you're not, because when we were in our 20s, you were like a good 2 or 3 years older, and now we're 7 months apart. Kelly, I don't believe her, and I don't believe you, damn it.
I am absolutely class of 98. Johnston High School in Austin, Texas, class of 1998.
Okay,
Johnston Rams, go look it up.
we don't need the yearbook. Okay, so let's transition here into the 90s. And this is, again, these are the moments where, when you're in elementary school and stuff like that, yeah, how you dress matters and your cool friend group matters, but not like once you get in that junior high, it like everything matters. And I've told you before, I went to 3 elementary schools, so I never really got like my bearings. I never really got
Mhm.
to like, get that big group of friends. So when I got into junior high, I was like, let's go. I was still a cornball and a nerd, just, I mean, I didn't know everything, but I was much more participating in all of the activities. And I just really enjoyed it. Like, I have a lot of really good junior high memories, not just from the movie, but from the music too. Like the music and the
Oh,
era.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was great. And it's funny because I went to 3 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and
Is
3 high
she just
schools.
trying to copy my whole? I'm 42. So am I. Class of 98. Yep. Woo woo. And I went to 3 elementary schools too. Like, who are you today?
I did. I want to be just like you.
Jeez.
Um, no, but I did. I went 3, 3, and 3. I was just moving around a lot. But it's funny because my sister and I were just talking about how our school experiences were so different from each other. And I was telling her, I was basically just kind of faking it till I made it most of the time because I was always the new kid out of school. So I just kind of pretended like everything was cool and I was cool, and then all of a sudden I just, made myself believe that I was.
Yeah. There is
And
there's a level of like overcompensating that you need to do. And I used to
mhm,
say that I thought that's why I wanted to get into broadcast. Like, looking back, obviously that's what I chose when I was in my, 20 years old, and we started in radio together. But looking back, everywhere I was at, junior high, I was behind a microphone, announcing the assemblies. Same with high school. Like, I was always behind a microphone. And I thought that
mhm.
was because I faked it till I made it, in the regards of the faking it was I wanted my voice to be heard. So
Yeah.
what better way than to run shit? So I did.
Well, and the way that I thought about it was that if I put out this extroverted version of myself, I can kind of hide behind that. Because
Hmm.
if I make it like, oh, because I I did the announcements in high school too.
Oh, yo, we've done so many episodes together, and now we are becoming the same
I know, now we're
person.
from the same person, but we had a news channel in my high school that was called K-Ram,
Hmm.
and because we were the Rams, and I was on the news desk, and I like did the weather. I was the weather girl,
Hmm.
and but it was funny because even in middle school, like I did plays and I did stuff because I was always trying to be somebody else, so I didn't have to be me.
Hmm.
And when I became a publicist, it's like when I put my publicist hat on, I can go up and talk to anybody because it's not really me, it's my job.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I separated things. And even doing like podcasts with you and doing like the radio show and all these things that I've done, it's that. It's just like this other version of myself. And like my sister will tell you, like, why do you have your fake voice on? And I'm like, it's not my fake voice. She's like, yes, it is. I can hear it. Ugh. She's like, because you're not that friendly. And I'm like, yes, I am.
It's
But
not like
no,
you're
I'm
putting on
really
a
not.
show or anything. You're just, okay, you don't appreciate small talk. You appreciate like theatrics.
Well, it's more like it's like an uh, like a bold version of myself. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
like an extra, like just like being a little extra
When I
when
was in
you
the when I was in the junior high, we did junior high to ninth grade. That's the way our school was set up. When
Mhm.
we went to high school, the ninth graders came with us, and it's back to the 4 years, which is what's regularly. But
Mhm.
my junior high experience was kind of weird because it was seventh, eighth, and ninth,
Oh yeah.
and what do you call it? I always in I was in the leadership, so I was always announcing all the assemblies and stuff, and I took
Mhm.
it that as I can't talk to you on a human to human level. I'm a little shy. Small talk, no way. Don't ask me what I'm feeling, but I could command an audience. That's what I can do. And
Right.
honestly, people did start to like leave you alone. Not that anyone was saying or doing anything, but like people would leave you alone because they were like, oh, he's always about his business. And if I wasn't announcing something at the assembly, I was like putting something together, like putting the
Mhm.
dance together or putting this activity together or talking with the assistant principal about a budget or whatever. Like I was doing all those things in the eighth and ninth grade in the junior high leadership because if I was busy, we didn't have to really like talk about life.
Right.
I
Well, see, I
guess
didn't get that. I it was a miracle if I showed up to school, so I didn't do all that. But
even in junior high. Oh no.
no, junior high did, but when I got to high school, I mean, I swear I did not go to school my sophomore and junior year. I went like my freshman and senior year,
Well,
and that was like it.
there was the TikTok trend recently, the teenage dirtbag challenge. I feel like our teenage dirtbagness is going to come out of this episode. And by the way, I should really let you know, jokes aside, that we do have a lot going for you if you want to get on our YouTube Shorts or our TikTok. We have been contributing quite a bit, so I'm really proud of that. And just go do it. Just go follow and write some comments, et cetera, because we work way too hard for not the money that the rest of the podcast industry is making. So
But also you get to see kind of a little
screw
bit more of
them.
like the silly side and just like silly things and get to know us a little better, which I think is
Yes.
fun.
Okay, so let's get into the movies that shaped us because we were also in the 90s. We were like those adolescent kids or teenagers or young adults right when these movies were just like an influx of them. Right, is
Oh
that the word
yeah.
influx? Right. Yeah, yeah. So this one Kelly told me, "Have you seen it?" And I did not resist. I hadn't seen it, but I hadn't resisted. But I watched it yesterday, and the first one we're going to talk about is
Drive
uh,
me crazy.
so why do
We
you
gotta have
love
the
it?
Britney beat in the back.
Yes.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
What do you love about it?
It's just such a fun, silly movie. And when it was out, I believe I actually saw it in the theater, maybe more than once. But it was just fun. And the story of it was resonated with me on how girls treat each other. And I feel like you'll see it in most movies where there's competition and, girls like the same boy and, they're fighting over, play parts or boy, whatever. But in this particular movie, there Melissa Joan Hart's character has this friend who's a little bit darker, of a personality, and she's kind of too cool for school. She's not as bubbly as Melissa Joan Hart's character. She kind of keeps to herself a little bit, but they're supposed to be besties. Well, as the story goes on, she becomes a little jealous of Melissa Joan Hart's character, and she starts doing some passive aggressive, underhanded stuff. But unless you're paying attention to that and you actually realize what's happening, you really don't notice.
Mm.
And the way that it's explained, you know, Adrian Grenier is in this movie and he's like the male lead and they're talking about it. And she said, well, when guys compete with each other, it's basically like, they're, in the gym, like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. That's kind of how they do it, right? Well, when women or girls compete with each other, it's a lot more artistic because there's thought that goes into it. There's, and she's like, and Alicia, who's like her friend, she's like, she's an artist. So it's like watching all these little conniving things that she does. And so when you pay attention to that and then you watch this character's interactions with other people, you'll see like she's trying to break up, this other couple. And then she's underhandedly doing, saying some other stuff. And it's really calculated and thought out. And I've never seen another movie, whether it's a teen movie, adult movie, romantic comedy, whatever, that describes that kind of anarchy in a way that this movie did so perfectly. And I've probably talked about that before on this podcast, but I always reference that because it's one of my favorite lines from a movie that describes that.
Yeah. Do you like that that's how it's represented, or do you feel like that's actually kind of okay because it is a bit real that women?
I just feel like it's real. I mean, I
Because
don't
you've mentioned on
it
this
is that.
podcast, like you have so much love and in terms of how you empower women, but like there are times where you have mentioned and exposed me to the idea that like sometimes women make it harder for the next woman to shine. And when you made me watch this or had me watch this, I was happy to do so. Yeah, I caught a little bit of that, but it's just a little unexpected. And I agree with you. But I found it as a really fun movie. So thanks
No,
for.
it's really fun, like overall, and it is kind of the message of the movie is you kind of get over what other people think, and you're taking the power back about what you think is important, who you want to be around, the kind of person you want to be. And I think, the two main characters get together because they're trying to make their significant others jealous. And, that's kind of how most of these teen movies would start. And that would kind of be how the thing would be. But then by the end of it, they just realize, who gives a shit? I don't even have the energy to put toward that anymore. I need to put that energy toward myself. And that's the good message that comes out of it if you're paying attention. Is like, yeah, you might care about what other people think for a minute, but once it gets deep into it, who are these people and who gives a shit what they think? You have to empower yourself.
At what age did you stop caring what people thought? And I'm not saying that. Well, actually, let me let you answer. You could say you still care now because caring could be good because it's it's you having a little trust in your circle. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing, but I know there's a different and definitive moment from what you felt in high school. Like I always feel like my high school experience was pretty good, but I wonder how much, like, I don't want to say maneuvering, but like I really did a lot to make sure I was highly liked and very friendly. And I would say most people thought I was really cool. Some would say shy, which is always funny because they seen that I got into radio and broadcast or whatever, but never really a bad mark. I was never, not adored, I don't think. And I just know that while that's good, was I like compromising me a little? Ooh,
Yeah. Ooh.
that's a tough one.
Ooh.
I don't know. We're gonna do a subtopic.
I mean, for me, it's not a straightforward answer. I mean, I guess at face value, I really don't care. Of course, I want people to appreciate who I am and the good person I feel like I am. But I know that doesn't always come through depending on the situation. But at the end of the day, and years ago, I kind of just, and like I said, I went to a lot of different schools. So I was a new kid a lot. So I kind of just had to accept the fact that I am who I am. This is me. You either like it or you don't.
Mhm.
And I've
Sounds like
tried to
sounds
keep
like a song in a musical. This is me. I
well,
mean,
I
it
mean, I'm
is.
sure it is, but I
Yeah.
also am genuinely such a lover of movies that these kinds of things and why I dig so deep into the characters and the storylines is because that's the therapy for me. When I
Mhm.
look at that, I find the parallels between what I'm going through in my life and kind of like going through it. And I watch the movie with that in my mind.
Mhm.
So I take the messages from them and certain things. So I can sit here, I could break down this entire movie and give you like everybody, what I feel like is everybody's issue and why they do this and why do that and who really is super self-confident and honestly doesn't care and who does, like, you know what I mean? I just really get into all of that. But having to go to so many new places and moving around all the time, it's constantly like reintroducing yourself to people and then kind of coming back and forth. And I was lucky that it wasn't as terrible as it could have been. I made some really great friends that I actually still have,
Mhm.
that I've been friends with since elementary school or middle school or high school. I mean, one of my very best friends, we've been friends for almost 25 years.
It is a gift to be able to, like,
Mhm.
befriend people in all of these different situations, different
Mhm.
age groups, professionally, back when you went to high school, all the stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's a nod to just your, I don't know, faking it.
But right. I mean, and it goes into, and it's funny because everybody's doing this whole new this Taylor Swift song, the one that's like, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me." And
Mhm.
it's kind of going back and looking like, what are your problems? Like, what are you looking at? It's the self-reflection. What are you looking at yourself for and realizing are your insecurities that you can bring out that causes these things to happen in your life?
Well, that's what makes it dangerous about today's topic because it's like really cool because these are like we're flooded with memories, like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh. I mean, and I'm not a person who ever goes back and looks back at like that stuff. I mean, my most exciting time, and no knock to like high school. It was fun when it was around, but after
Mhm.
that, it was like when we started in radio. That's where I had like the most fun, that's where my life really started.
Yeah.
What was the point of bringing that up? Oh, bringing that up is like, but we go back and things remind you of stuff, not triggered, but like things remind you of things. And you also see how much you changed. Off topic, there was a TV show I used to love called Girlfriends. Did you ever watch? It was a Kelsey Grammer produced show. Anyways, it was the four women. It was like a Sex in the City, actually, early.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of episodes, but I didn't ever watch it religiously.
Well, here's what's funny. My whole life growing up, or we not growing up, but watching,
Mhm.
I was probably a 22-year-old when it came out.
Mhm.
Um, I always thought I was a Maya. And then I was like, I was never a Maya. I was a Tony Childs. And that's not even necessarily good because she was selfish, but like I could rep that would be the character
Mhm.
that I would be. But when I was younger, I thought I was a Maya. No, I was like a Joan. Joan was the main character, which is
Mhm.
always the Sarah Jessica Parker or the Dorothy
Mhm.
Zvornak of it all. Um, B. Arthur. So it's funny how you get locked into it at one moment and then you go
Mhm.
back and you're like, I identified with that character? No, I'm over here. Anyways, that is
No,
a
it's really interesting, and I'm a person that I've always go back. I always look back to move forward, and I don't know why I've always done that, but I always have. And I've mentioned this before on the show. Like I'm a notorious for keeping everything. Every letter I used to religiously write journals, and when I go back and read them, it cracks me up. But I also have every letter, anybody that's ever written me, promise you I still have it somewhere,
I
like
remember
from school and all of that.
one time you stayed at my apartment in New York and
Mhm.
you had because you were working at Playboy at the time,
Mhm.
you had the Playboy letterhead in the letter. I used to save them too. I
Mhm.
just got to a point in my life slash career slash what the F
Mhm.
where I just moved too many damn times. So I
Yeah.
lost the saving. But up until around
Mhm.
2016, I was a very good saver
Yeah.
also.
Well, I
You like
mean,
saving though? You think it
I
feels
I
good to
I
go back?
I do because
Oh no, you should never look back. You should never look
but
back.
that's how it helps me to really take a look at myself, because if it's in print, how can you argue? Like I can think that a situation went one way, but I used to literally detail by detail write these out like stories. I've always wanted to be like a script writer, movie director, and I went to film school and
That's
stuff,
true.
and
You said
and
that,
that's
yeah.
why. So I always lived my life like that ever since I was a kid. I mean, I've got stories that I wrote about like how I met like the first guy I ever liked in our whole situation. And, how all these years later we got back in touch with each other and talked about, what the relationship was to him and what the relationship was to me. And it was just so mind blowing, like how we saw each other when we were so young, because it was like such a nothing. I mean, like it was everything then. And it felt like it was such a big thing, but we really didn't spend all that much time together. And it's just funny to look back at that now. But to be able to reflect and revisit, but also with some of my girlfriends, I thought I was one way and I look back and I'm like, oh shit, I kind of wasn't the good friend. I did some shady shit. And to be able to go back and look at that and just, you know, admit that to myself. What happened? Why are you blue?
We're
Where did you go?
time out.
You're all probably wondering why I'm blue and orange.
I'm sorry, we seem to be having some technical difficulties.
An honest mistake.
What happened?
I don't know. I'm a Willy Wonka.
Ooh, I'm blue.
Okay, one second. I'm gonna have to stop this, okay?
No, that's fine.
Lights, camera, action.
Okay, are we back?
I think we're
Are we
back.
Clap your hands or something. We're back.
Woo! We're here.
I guess your story was so compelling. I don't even know what you were saying.
So weird. Oh, I was just talking about how I just, I can look back and I can accept the fact and acknowledge the fact that, maybe I was a bitch. Maybe I wasn't always on the up and up. Maybe I did some shady shit. See, and I can just be like, wow, okay.
The power of the don't ever look back was like, no, Kelly, no.
No. Yeah, it was like, okay, stop the story. Stop it.
Yeah.
You're going to divulge too much stuff.
We're going to get into the next, film that we're going to, talk about. But I did want to say my only contrast with looking back too much is I worry that it could impede on your trying to not remake yourself, but that's the exciting thing too. You look back and know yourself a little too much. Do you fall into those same patterns? I'm not asking you to answer it right now, but it's something that I felt like I don't want to always look back. Let it be what it is. And that way I get to try new things again. And the next movie we're going to talk about, in the very first 5 minutes of the movie, the sarcastic girl goes, why would you look back? Why would you look back? You should never look back. And then there's a guy running and then he hits the table or something like that. Okay, maybe that guy should look back.
You're afraid to move forward. I mean, listen, we are so out of here. Now, why do you want to go to this party tonight and look back? Don't look back. You should never look back.
Dude, I actually graduated.
Most of that guy.
Because she was the type that hated high school and she's like, I want to get on with my life. Anyways, if you are listening to us audibly, we are talking about Can't Hardly Wait. Kelly, what do you think of this? If you have a couple thoughts, I'm going to tell you my thoughts, and they are big and they are with lots of gusto.
It's a great one. Lots of familiar faces in this one, and so many different high school archetypes in this movie, which I think was fantastic. All kind of rolled into one at one major party at the end of the year, which, I mean, how could it have been any better?
It was the one that I don't know if it was just the timing of like we said, class of 98 or whatever, because obviously the characters themselves necessarily didn't look in the vein of the high school, but we were able to say oh, Jennifer Love Hewitt, she's this girl in our high school, and the Peter Facinelli character is this guy in our high school, and the one who I just said, the one smart aleck, you should never look back, whatever, was this grumpy girl that we used to know that was fun for us, but she was grumpy to everybody else, socially awkward. And it just really felt like the one that at the time, everyone that I knew loved it, high school wise, we all enjoyed it. We were all getting ready to be, graduated, class of 98. And it was just a fun movie. I don't know that I go back to it now and love it as much. And I was talking to my brother recently. I was like, when you go back to a Can't Hardly Wait, you're kind of like, okay, that's so far gone now. He's like, no, I love it still. And I could say I really do like Can't Hardly Wait. I think it is a fantastic movie. The adolescence, and the young hormones and everything that really matched kind of what you were going through at the time. And, oh, there's the girl that I have to, talk to. And if I don't talk to her now, she's going to go off to college. And I mean, I even remember having a little memory of this girl that I remember going to the prom with her, but like I had to like make a move or what would happen. And now, the whole story has changed, but like it just felt such like a big deal. And it's funny to
Oh
look at
yeah, that it's everything is the end of the world, right? Like it's
that.
so timely and it has to happen right now or you're just going to like your world is just going to end. And that is what that movie is that everything has to happen right now because if you don't change it, then everything else is a catastrophe. And that's what's so funny about that movie.
I love the Trip McNeely, the Jerry O'Connell.
I mean, he's in the movie for like 5 minutes, but it's so
Yeah.
memorable.
What was memorable is that the character, the Peter Facinelli, who like, I can't remember what his name was in the movie, but like he looked at like the idolization of like, oh, once you are in college, you get college chicks or whatever. And like
Mhm.
life's supposed to get so much better. And Jerry O'Connell's character was like, not really, like enjoy what you have now. And I think even us looking back, like, when you were class of 98, like everyone would say, enjoy this. And I was always like, no, like I'm ready to go start my life. But really, as much as I say I don't look back at those memories, and even though they were great, I just rather, go forward.
Mhm.
They were fun. And I remember the year after I graduated, because I was a little bit of a younger kid in my when everyone was turning like 18, I was like, at the beginning of the year, I was a
Mhm.
September birthday. So I
Mhm.
always got along with the next grade below me as well. And so I would stay in touch with them or whatever. And I remember feeling that year of like wanting to kind of be back in like school and the mix of it all. So it did a lot. It did a number.
Yeah, no, it was my senior year was so fun
Mhm.
and I did so many things and I mean it was a little stressful too because I had to really double down on my studies since like I said I basically skipped my sophomore and junior year so I had to make all that
Mhm.
up to be able to graduate on time, which I almost didn't do, but luckily I did.
Samesies
Um
again.
yeah,
I had
well,
I
and
had
I was a straight A student. I just didn't because of absences. And I had to do all this extra stuff to make up all
oh
these credits I didn't have.
I wasn't a straight A student. I was a didn't want to read. I didn't want to. I was busy doing. I did the yearbook. I put the yearbook together. I
Oh,
did the
nice.
announcements, and I played volleyball. That's all I cared about. And then at the end of the season, or not season, but like as we're getting closer,
Mhm.
credits wise, I go, well, damn, I know I'm a younger aged, class of 98er, but I might end up being a class of 99er because I'm not going to make it. And
Well,
luckily,
the only thing I had put together was I put together like a career day my senior year, not
Mhm.
because it was something I like desperately wanted to do, but I needed extra credits. So
Okay,
I had to get more involved in school because the principal
yeah.
was like, I will help you and I'll give you the credits that you need, but you have to do the A, B, and C. And so I was doing all of that. But I still found time to do a lot of really fun stuff.
Well, you are warming up my heart a little bit. Maybe that was just the jaded initial. Like, I don't want to look back at these memories. And now that we're talking about them, and even like, looking at this movie, Can't Hardly Wait, it
Hmm.
really is like a fun movie. Yes. Does anyone in Can't Hardly Wait, was it exactly like our high school? No, but the archetypes really were celebrated and you got to
Yeah.
fit in one way or another. And what a great cast. I mean, it really was.
Oh, fantastic cast. So many great actors and actresses in that film. So
Yeah.
many.
Let's move on to the next one as we celebrate the coming of age, TV and film that matched our adolescence also. So we have Dawson's Creek, which I did not really watch. This was a television series.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on this one?
Dawson's Creek, I didn't really get too deep into it. I did watch it occasionally, and the love triangles, it was mostly like that's what mostly sticks out to me about this show were the love triangles with Dawson and then with Pacey and with Joey and all of that, but was still definitely something relatable when it comes to young love and how the heartbreak was just so intense when you're young and you
Yeah.
really think it goes in with all of that everything's the end of the world because how could it
Mhm.
not be, right? But
Cast
I thought it was still a pretty good show.
cast wise, I mean, they're all pretty much still, almost household names for the most part. That
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
always
for sure.
that doesn't always happen with some of these teenage, high school movies that you kind of become known for. But
Mhm.
everyone kind of, for the most part,
Yeah, they've like stepped out
continued on.
and done and continued and done some stuff and are still doing things today.
Also with James Beek or Peak? Okay.
Vanderbeek.
Varsity Blues. Ronnie has not seen it, and I
I
don't think I will.
cannot believe you have not seen it. Well,
Like, I've
I'm,
seen it to a
you know,
degree. Like, I know that there isn't there the whipped cream moment or something like that. Is that this movie?
there is the whipped cream moment that Chris Evans reenacted in his spoof version of this movie. But
Oh, I
yes,
remember.
and
Yeah.
not another teen movie he did. But this movie is very dear and near to my heart because it's very Texas. It was actually filmed at my sister's high school here in Texas. And it also launched the career of some pretty familiar faces in that movie, aside from James. But
Wait, so they filmed it in Texas at a school your sister went to?
yeah, which is in the suburb of Austin. Georgetown High School is where they filmed
Oh,
it.
okay.
And yeah, when I think we had just graduated or were about to graduate when they were filming that movie. Maybe we had just graduated. Because I think that's like a 99.
I like how you say we, like we knew each other in 98.
No, but you know.
20 years of friendship is in 2003, but imagine if we did know each other in 98. Shit.
Yeah.
And so many parallels, you know?
So many. I mean, we very, very similar in the way that we live life. But it's also a very like football driven movie, and that is very Texas. I mean, Texas is all about football.
Not that we're going to talk about this one, but my brother always sort of ropes me into all the sporting movies, and Friday Night Lights was one that we would watch, and that was just such a good show in general. The
movie was that inspired it was really great, and the schools that they talk about there are schools I'm very familiar with in West Texas and stuff. I mean, football is salt of the earth here. It's like that's God's game here in Texas.
Yeah, well, so what is that? That's just like based on where you live, different things are going to be a bigger deal. If you live in
I mean, it's really, really well. It really depends because I mean, it's especially in the smaller towns like Odessa. You'll hear Odessa Permian and Friday Night Lights. You'll hear Abilene. You'll hear those towns. But also, that's how these kids get out of their little small towns and make something of themselves as those football scholarships. Like that's what they really need. And their parents, I mean, you think stage moms are bad. I mean, football parents, whew, I'm glad I wasn't a boy.
Yeah, I could imagine, just any sport really, but like if Texas really has a foothold on, this is something that everybody wasn't what was the neighborhood not neighborhood, but where was the location of okay, I'm forgetting. Anyway, I believe you because I watched Friday Night Lights. I did not see Varsity Blues, but I watched Friday Night Lights.
But Varsity Blues kind of like it goes into that, and there's also some very pretty people. I mean, we've got Paul Walker, you've got Ali Larder, James Vanderbeek's not bad to look at, and Scott Conn, and then there's the stories. Again, it's really about do you fall into what your parents want you to do, or do you step out of it? Can you step up to the plate? Will you do everything it takes just to make your parents or your football coach or whoever, even if it costs you, your health or yourself or your character, whatever, it kind of, digs into all of that.
Scott Conn, would that be James Conn's son?
It is, yes. The one with the cowboy hat, that's Scott Conn in this picture. Oh, and also Amy Smart, of course, can't forget her. She's lovely.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I haven't visited that one, but
I think you should. Maybe that's something you and your brother can watch together.
Oh, he'll watch it. He's probably already seen it. He loves that. Like again,
I'm sure
we are yin yang. He loves the sports. I can't stand him. But we do watch them together, and you'll see that in our list here as we go back and look at all the coming of age little stories, which matched Kelly and Ronnie's class of '98 vibe too. So these make us feel very like connected because this is what we reminisce over. It was when we were we were the bee's knees back then. We were it, Never did we think we'd be dusty 40-year-olds. Not that we're dusty, but you know what I mean. Like that was so like, are you kidding? I'm not gonna be 40 years old. Crazy.
I mean, can you believe that like 24 years ago, I was like lying to the bouncers at the club like to get in?
Well, what amazes me is we're so the same yet so different. So many things are exactly who we are. Like there's times where I'm like, I have not changed for shit, like personality wise. But then like there's things that I look back at, like you say with the letter, if I were to see like a letter or how I used to talk or you know,
Yeah.
because I was always recording or broadcasting, I guess, to a degree. I hear my voice and my verbiage. Like, I'm like, who is that? Like, why would you talk that way? Whereas I
Oh,
like how I sound now a little.
my
You used to have
first
a, yeah.
radio. Oh my gosh. I need to find someone that can put these cassette tapes on MP, like on a digital format, because my air checks from when I was on the radio are, I didn't realize I had such a strong Texas accent back then.
Mm,
It was, I mean, twang, really, like
yeah.
those, that accent was really dominant in the way that I used to speak. It's so funny.
The next one we have is One Tree Hill and the OC, which is a little past, um, you know, class of 98. I use that as like the bookmark, but these also were really, really big, you know, TV shows. I favored the OC. Did you watch them both, or where were you at with this, Kelly?
I mainly watched One Tree Hill. I didn't really get into the OC. I just didn't. I watched a few episodes, but it just really wasn't my bag. But the One Tree Hill I did, and I recently started going back and watching it and listening to the girls and their podcast. They basically are doing an after show about all these episodes and giving behind the scenes notes and kind of information and how they felt filming it, and kind of they go back and rewatch it and talk about it. So it's really kind of fun to hear their perspective on it.
I think also the OC's Rachel Bilson and Melinda Clark. I think they actually do one
I think they
exactly
do.
the
Yeah,
same
I think
too.
they do. I think
Yeah,
they do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you would like on the One Tree Hill is what I remember being excited that Hillary Burton was like from MTV to like an actual sitcom. I thought that was like a big career, like, oh, good for her kind of thing.
Hmm.
But this was mainly the launching place of Chad Michael Murray, right? Like he wasn't known until this show. Or
Yeah. Well, I think he had maybe appeared on like Gilmore Girls or something before this.
okay, but this was
Um,
the big
but this was his
moment, yeah.
big breakout. Yeah, he was on another show before, and then he transitioned to this, but I don't remember exactly which one it was.
I watched a little bit of this again with my brother because he's always he liked it because of the sports connection.
Hmm.
But it was the two, well, I guess two brothers, you know, essentially
Yeah,
is
they
what
were
it
two
ended up being.
brothers that were not claiming each
Yeah.
other because of the dad, and
Basically, one was illegitimate in some
hmm,
way. So
yeah.
really did set up nicely. I watched about the first like 9 episodes. So I'm not completely
Mhm.
detached from it. And maybe I'd go back and watch it one day.
I mean,
But
it really, dives into some dark stuff. It
yeah.
really, I mean, it's really like the darker side of teen drama, that what you kind of go through, because also not only do you have like this illegitimate son that goes back to his mom's hometown, so he has to watch, his dad and his family really like shun him, and they're horrible. They make fun of him,
Mm,
like he deals with all that. But then you've got Hillary Burton's character, who her mom dies, her dad's always gone working, she's basically raising herself, and so it's a lot of that. And then Brooke's character, who wasn't really supposed to be a recurring character,
mm.
but
That's
so
Sophia Bush, right?
Sophia
Yeah.
Bush, I guess she made such an impression in, on her time there and during her audition, that they actually wrote out a deeper role for her there. But she also had her own stuff, and the way that she used sexuality in order to kind of cover up some of her shit. And it's
Mm.
just like, and then you've got the other girl that was like nerdy, and then she like ends up being like a teen mom and gets married. It's like a whole thing. So it really goes into a lot of stuff.
Spoiler alert.
But
Spoiler
yeah,
alert.
but more on like the darker side of things,
Yeah.
and not so like silly and light. It really gets into some deep stuff,
Yeah.
which I really respected about that show.
Well, gosh, that was such a great breakdown. I feel like, what do I say about the OC? Other than I just liked it, you know what I mean? I loved
Hmm.
the Sandy character, Peter Gallagher. He was the character that basically brought Ryan into the OC, and then it was just that simple. It was like, oh, you're from the other side of the tracks, you're from Chino. How disgusting, and this is the lavish life of the OC, but like secretly, or not secretly, but like lo and behold, we're all kind of effed up the same,
Hmm.
So I think we probably watched it because we grew up in California, so maybe you just watched it because you felt more familiar with it. And
Hmm.
then even when like the OC was done and MTV had Laguna Beach, it was like, Laguna Beach, like it just, you would watch it just because you were familiar, probably
With
the
the
same
areas,
way
yeah.
you would be more familiar with like the Texas story of the big football stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it also looked really pretty. I mean, that's the thing. The OC
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a pretty cast and
Mhm.
pretty locations, and you loved seeing all the angst, and the parents had about as enough problems as even the teenage kids. The kids in high school, they were fine, but it was the parents that were like, the SHIT SHOW. Why do I
Oh,
do
yeah,
that?
but see, One Tree Hill was the same. I
Okay.
mean, you had parents like brothers that were fighting with each other.
Mhm.
The parents were into some shit,
Yeah.
and it's so you really kind of saw like, okay, these kids have some really like trauma going on, but then you see why, because look at their parents; they're all effed
Yeah.
up.
I did a
Like it's
podcast long ago with a friend, and she had watched both.
mhm,
And it was the comparative between the two. Again, I
mhm.
watched more OC than One Tree Hill, but yeah, there is a lot of similar connections to those. Okay, let's lighten it up a little bit, because this was everybody's favorite in terms of like, it just was. Well, I guess they did have some deeper issues, because they had a. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah.
I'm so scared.
I mean, you had the the pills episode where she was taking speed to study. She needed to study. That poor Jessie. But Saved by the Bell was one of the greatest shows, and I remember going back and watching like Mrs. Bliss's class, like the
Right.
original Saved by the Bell before they went over, before they went to high school, when
The
they were
only
in middle
characters
school.
that the only characters that stayed on that original would have been Zach was on it, Screech was
Mhm.
on it, and Lisa was on
And
it too, I
Lisa,
think.
yeah, it was the three of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gosh, I
those are the
feel
only ones that went over to the high school.
to the
Yeah.
because it was like a junior high at the
It was
beginning.
junior high in the beginning, and then it went
Right,
over
right.
to
It
yeah.
balanced itself so well, because there's so many great memories, and I remember like, just when did it come on? I guess it came on the weekends. It was it
Yeah,
was it was
Saturdays.
it was
Back
different.
when there was like Saturday morning cartoons, and we got Saved by the Bell for us older kids.
What are the big memories you have of it? Because I think of instantly when Kelly started dating, I think his name was Jeff. I guess he worked at the Peach Pit or something.
No, that was the Max. Peach
Oh,
Pit
not Peach Pit. Sorry, hold on. Wait a minute. Not yet. Not yet. It's gonna come. It's gonna come.
No,
Not
we're
yet.
talking about the Max.
The Max.
Get
Yeah.
it right.
Were they outside dancing too, or was it Kelly and Zach who were
When
doing?
they were breaking up.
And was the Michael Bolton? How am I supposed to live
Yes.
with that?
So
That was
heartbreaking.
so good. That
So
one.
good.
Yeah.
So good. She left him for the college guy that cheated on her. But
Oh, he ended up cheating on her.
He ended up cheating on her, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what was
Grass
great
is
about
never
her,
greener, guys. Grass is never greener.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen, she was the one who got to do Saved by the Bell, which was more the, fluffier, lighter show.
Kelly
And then,
Kapowski, which
and then
people
she got,
people to make fun of my last name because
Yeah.
it sounds kind of like that.
Oh, right. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
But then she also got to do a little bit of 90210 also, which I thought was very interesting.
With a
So she
dark, like, little bit of a darker
It
character.
was a good
Mhm.
character. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll get to 90210 because we've alluded to it twice. So get ready. Anything else you want to talk about from 90210? Because there are so many story.
Saved by the Bell, you mean? You're ready to talk about 90210.
What did I say right now?
You said
What did I say?
90210. Said if there's anything, you're ready for that 90210 talk.
I gotta say, we have just talked about a lot of. We might not talk about it today. We might 86 it and make a whole show dedicated to.
I mean, Saved by the Bell was great. There were a lot of things. There's, you've got like the military kid that's coming in, which was AC Slater, who kind of like knocks Zach off his little pedestal of being like the most popular kid in school. And then you have all these different friendships and these like competing, but all very much on a lighter level. And I think one of my favorite episode arc was so ridiculous when they had like Zack Attack and they were like the band and they were like a pop group. And like the dubbing, like the voices used for them was so off the wall.
Wasn't there one where Lisa was dancing but she was in crutches or something?
Yes. Oh, there was a dance contest. And
How about when Screech was burying his lizard?
Oh
Do you
my
remember
god!
that one?
Remember when his mom was like such an
O-R-G
Elvis fan?
boy. Which one?
His mom was such an Elvis fan, and she was like would dress up as Elvis and go to the Elvis conventions, and she
Oh,
had like a bust of Elvis, and they had a party and broke it, and
yeah.
it was like such a big deal.
Oh my gosh.
That's when another 90210 alum was on the show, Tori Spelling. Tori Spelling was Screech's girlfriend.
She
was
was.
Violet.
She
Was that her
was.
name? Violet?
Yes. The cameo that makes the most sense, though, when you think of 90210, is Stacey Carosi. I mean, being Leah Remini.
Oh, we've Saved by the Bell. Stop saying 90210.
Did I really say it? Tell me what I just said. What did I just say right now?
You said a cameo on 90210.
They're all the effing
But
same.
it was when Saved by the Bell went to the beach. So I'll
What is
give
this
you
picture
that.
we're looking at? I mean, if you're audibly listening, you just gotta imagine. What are we looking at right here? What is
Saved by
this?
the Bell. We're looking at Saved by the Bell.
And what did I call it? What did I call it?
You keep calling it 90210.
I've had a long weekend.
Ronnie is all about the 90210. He is ready to jump.
I don't want you to say that
spaces.
because what if I don't have anything interesting to say by the time we get there? I'm
Well,
just messing
now
up
we're
because
now we're building it up. Now we're
I'm
building
messing
it
up because I'm tired. We're gonna have to do a part 2. I'm kidding.
Cut.
Okay, so I guess we could be done with
Saved by the Bell was great. Everybody loved it. Lots and lots of fun. And they went on. You got Saved by the Bell the college years. You had the Zach and Kelly wedding. I mean, it went on forever.
They did a remake on Peacock streaming.
Oh, they did. Yes,
I don't think it went for a season 2, but because I don't think it did. But
I totally.
I would have been okay
to
see it. When I think about it, I don't know that I like Saved by the Bell was great, but I remember there was like a pop-up where they had like a Saved by the Bell.
Oh, they had the Max pop up in Beverly Hills or somewhere.
Yes,
right? Or Santa Monica.
My siblings went, and I remember feeling zero FOMO. So I don't know that like I like love it as much. Like, so again, this goes to what I was saying earlier.
Right.
I loved it when it was out. Saved by the Bell was great when I was a teenager and I had limited access to life. But now I'm like, was it that great? Like, you know.
Well, but wait. I think this is something you and I have in common because when we've worked in entertainment for so long. So I think that it's more like, not that we didn't think it was great and that would be such a fun novelty, but we did all that kind of stuff that I think that it's more the equivalent stuff that it's more like, I don't want to deal with the mess of it. Okay. More so that I don't think it's that cool. So I think it's like, if you stop and think, it's not that you didn't really like it, but I think it's more like, we know what it is to like put together that kind of
because we worked in broadcast, we worked in event production, so
it's like, because it's going to be the lines, it's going to be all the mess, and it loses its luster because of that. Because that's the way I am. Like I worked so many concerts that it is rare you will ever find me at a concert, and I love them. I wonder if that wears off, but I don't want to deal with it.
You don't think that wears off at all? Like, I feel like at some point you got to just enjoy it.
I mean, I haven't worked in radio since 2005, and I still don't want to go to a concert. I mean, the last concert I went to that I didn't have to go to was Dolly Parton in like 2017. And that was fantastic, by the way. And I was super excited to go to that. But it was at the Hollywood Bowl. That's a whole different experience. It's like awesome. But
you do make a point, though.
Yeah. I when I was working at Playboy, we had the Playboy Jazz Festival. So I would go to shows for that. And then, working with other artists and stuff, I went to a lot of shows. But if I actually like bought tickets to something, it was Dolly Parton. Other than that, I mean.
Well, there it is. So people don't realize how many, hours you have to put into these jobs that you and I worked, especially at the beginning, that like the one thing we could have as a payoff is that I'm not waiting in a line or, paying for, I mean, I paid for Janet Jackson tickets and I would do that again.
Oh, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it has to be like something like that and at a venue that's like the Hollywood Bowl, where no matter where you are in that place, it's going to be like a good time and a good seat and like all of that. It's not gonna, you know what I mean? Like,
last thing about Saved by the Bell. Got it right.
There you go.
I feel like Zach was awesome. And do you think more people sided with Zach or AC Slater?
I was always more of a Zach fan.
Me too.
He
was so arrogant.
He was cocky and he was arrogant and all that, but he was actually like a really good guy.
I think so too. Remember when he like made his errors? He just was like conniving. And
Oh
so,
no, he totally always wanted to win. He was super competitive.
which was kind of fun to watch.
Oh, it was totally fun to watch. That's one thing I did like to watch between the two of them, but I feel like I just didn't vibe a lot with like Slater's character because I feel like he was just a little too arrogant and there wasn't really anything underneath that.
And
But
do
I
you
think
think
that
you
was like what his character was.
And do you think you don't like Slater because Mario Lopez is hard to enjoy too? Do you think a little bit of it has to do with that?
Oh, I have a really funny Mario Lopez story, but it could be.
Could
But
be.
I mean, it could be because he does
Could be.
kind of come off a little not so friendly, I guess.
He comes off as the opposite that he sells, and that drives me nuts more than anything. He
Totally.
sells nice guy,
Mhm.
but we have been behind those, working
I mean,
in
but
those
he's kind of, I
jobs.
mean, he's kind of a dick. Like he kind of is. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. Like he kind of is.
Yeah.
But let me tell you my funny like Mario Lopez story. It'll be fast. But he was hosting that America's Best Dance Crew.
Yep.
And I had met Randy Jackson at an event and we became friendly and he invited me and some girls out to go watch a taping of the show. And we were there and we're sitting, we're sitting watching the show and then his assistant comes and get us and we go backstage. But it's funny because we're watching the taping of the show and Mario Lopez is doing his thing, but as soon as like it goes to commercial, he just has like this scowl on his face. He just looks like he's in a bad mood. He doesn't want anybody to talk. Like you can tell he is just like not having it to the point where we were laughing. It was pretty comical because he was so annoyed. And then, but as soon as like it was time to come back on, like he was on it because he's a professional. So we go backstage and we're talking with Randy and like hanging out. And then Mario comes back over there and this is just how I am. Like, I can't help it. I was just like, are you okay? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it just kind of was funny, like how that banter happened. And he just looked at me and he just broke and just started laughing. I was like, dude, you look like you wanted to like murder everyone in the audience. Like, are you having a bad day? Are you okay? And we just were. And it turned out like he honestly was just having a bad day. And we talked about it, and he really wasn't as shitty as I thought he was. And we like laughed it out or whatever. But I mean, when you're doing that kind of stuff and you constantly have to be on, and it gets annoying and it just gets to be so much after a while. And I totally relate to that. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced that when you constantly just have to be friendly when you don't want to be, and you constantly have to be doing things you don't want to do. And sometimes you're just in a fucking bad mood and nobody will let you be in a bad mood. And it's hard. It's like sometimes you just can't fake it. And I think he was just having one of those days and I just broke it out of him and it was funny. And it turned out to be funny. He lightened up and then he did the rest of the show and it was just like a different vibe.
But I think he requires a special person like you who, because other people will look at it as like jerk, like
totally. Which
that's how I would do. I would be like, what? But you gave him the benefit of the doubt and then you were able to make a connection. So I think that's really what it is.
But also I'm a publicist and I deal with bratty ass people all the time. And that was always kind of my tactic, was to just be like, what is wrong with you? Are you cool? Because you're looking like you're not. Like
it's funny.
You know what I mean? Like
my only thing with him is like, and thank God he got Dancing with the Stars, because his career was not ascending. It had a bit of a lull, like everyone does, Saved by the Bell was some years ago, and it was that Dancing with the Stars, when Dancing with the Stars was big, that changed the game and gave him all that extra cachet or whatever,
and like all that. And the thing, and he's still I still find like some of his social media and like some of the shitties, like I still find that he's kind of a dick, like just a little. I feel like he's a little arrogant, like he's kind of got that little edge to him a little bit, I think. But I mean, that's just could just be his personality, and he might not mean anything malicious by it.
And you're right. What's the alternative? Like, okay, mic's on, 3, 2, 1. Well, now what do you want to do, stupid? Like, you can't do that either. I mean, you can. We do it all the time.
I mean,
but I
we
guess
do.
my message would be, if he was watching this, because of course everyone watches our show, would be like, me as somebody who's been trying to pursue, like a chance to be on camera too, or whatever the case.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't love somebody with such a terrible reputation. And we're only both saying stories because we both know some stuff. And then the complete polarizing opposite comes over the camera, so that people that aren't in the business get to like absorb him as this really nice guy. I don't know why, but that gets under my skin a little bit, Kelly. Like, it gets me a little bit like, oh, screw that. But it's not going to change because he's got a great
no.
career and it keeps going.
And but like I said, I think it's just sometimes, in my experience as an entertainment publicist for so long, when you have people that are always like your yes people, because when someone like him, Ellen, all these people, the people that they have around them are all yes people because they make a paycheck off this person, right? So you're not really going to call anybody out because you could get in trouble. You could get fired. You could lose your job. So you're going to kind of do whatever you need to do to deal with whatever mood they're in, like whatever that is. I don't have to. I could give a shit. So I'm just I've just always been that person that will just get right to the point and cut the shit. I mean, it's like what we talked about with Ronnie, where I am not let's like drag out the answer when I ask you a question. No, let's get to the point. That's just who I am.
You did say that. Mm-hmm.
But when I worked for Kiss FM and I would deal with Wango Tangos and Jingle Balls, that's why they would put me with the J-Los and the Snoop Dogs and all those people, because I would just cut the shit and be like, yo, you're late. We got to go to sound check. I'm not going to fawn over you. I appreciate you. I respect you as an artist. I think you're fantastic, but you're fucking late. Let's go. Like, that's kind of
which is the job.
What my whole attitude always was, which was why I got assigned to those people. And as my career progressed, that's why I was around these high profile people. I mean, most recently, I left my last job like almost 3 years ago, but like I had a really high like profile famous person publicist call me about an event for this last company that I worked at, and I haven't worked there for 3 years.
Oh, she made a
And
reputation.
I'm just like, oh, I was like, I would love to help you, but I don't, let me see if I can find out. I mean, I respect this person. It's a person who's been in the business for like, forever. And I was, but it shows like, that's the reputation that I have. And that, and I'll get the answer and I'll find out. And I did. I was like, hold on, give me a second. And I'm like texting while I'm on the phone, and I like figured it out for this person. But but that's always who I've been. So to go up to him and be like, dude, you're acting like a dick. Like, what's your deal? And we just like start laughing. He could have totally written me off. He could have totally been like, who are you? Fuck you. Like, who cares? But he didn't. And I think to me, that proves to me the deep down kind of person that he is. He's really not that. I think he might have some bad days and people let him get away with it. So don't let him.
Well, I don't think we spent too much time on Saved by the Bell. I think we spent too much time on AC Slater by way of Mario Lopez.
Sorry.
But we can move on. The next one was also in that pack, or time, what's it called, scheduling of Saturday. I guess it was like NBC, and it was called City Guys. And I don't
remember this show.
It was a show that was sandwiched between like a California Dreams and a Saved by the Bell. They sort of like leaned in. There was a lot of them. There was a Hang Time or something like that.
Oh, right.
Which was with because I remember Anthony Anderson was on that one, which he became a big household name or whatever. What's interesting about this one, City Guys, I was once a featured extra on City Guys.
Now, you?
Don't have the footage today.
Oh, we gotta find it.
The reason I say featured extra is because I was so good. It was
well,
like thinking of Saved by the Bell, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was Bayside versus Valley. So I would have been like on the other team with the one actor. So like there's the one actor closest to the whoever's doing the educational decathlon. What would that be called? Like a spelling bee or something.
Okay.
Just whatever the contest was. So there were the three actors from, again, we'll use it as an example.
Like the rival.
Yeah. So you got the Kelly, Zach, and whatever, and then you got the one actor on my team side, and then me and this girl, we had to pantomime, and we were like, yeah, let's go. And when I tell you, Kelly,
We have
I
to find
watched-
this footage. We have to find. I mean, you know what?
Oh,
I'm gonna
it's
find
good.
it. I'm
It's
gonna
good.
find it, and I'm putting it on our TikTok and our
Yeah.
YouTube Shorts. So make sure you
Yes,
go
I
to
was also in a Naughty by Nature
typicalpodcasters.com.
music video too. So
Oh
you know,
my God,
the more and more stories. Yeah.
What? See, and you say I'm the only one with stories. Come
Ronnie
on,
is
we
an
gotta bring
extra.
them out. We gotta bring them out.
But can I tell you? So this is why I gotta say when we're talking about all of this genre of TV and film, City Guys was great because for one, it was a New York City show. That's for one, and it was just a cool little show. Like I can't really think anything that made it great or not great, but it was New York. It was great. And I got to, it was right there at the Sunset Gower Studios, and I was like the featured extra. But I loved the experience. I was like, oh, because I had done extra work before, but I'm like, oh God, the cattle call, it's so boring. This one was not that way. This was like, oh, we need to get you over here because you had got wardrobe and you had a reason to do something. And so when I tell you, they said pantomime with the actor, and when the camera's not rolling, you talk to him and everything. And we had a great time, the three of us. He was the only one that was getting paid well. Me and the girl, we're just the silly ones that were
players.
like, let's go, Joe, let's go. Yes!
That is the best.
And
you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of that show, The Heights. Do you remember that show?
I do remember that one. Yeah.
Jamie Walters, gotta love him.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which will link back to 90210 also.
I know.
It all comes back. But Kelly, I had so much fun, and I sometimes think these silly experiences that are nothingness, meaning they paid you next to nothing. Like, sure, you were the featured extra, but it didn't really matter. They could have threw anyone in there. Maybe not. Maybe you were picked for a reason. Like visibly, everyone has to look the right way or the age or whatever. But I had so much fun because, again, at that point I had only done like extra work that was like one of 900 people, in the Varsity Blues stands.
See, that's what I'm saying. When you go back and revisit some of this stuff, the great stories come out. I mean, think about it. That's why I'm saying, like, you and I, we need to write like a book of just funny things that we realize that has happened to each of us as we're just having random conversations. That's what we need to do.
Well, that, and also like, how did we end up in these places? You know what I mean? Like me being an extra was before I worked in radio.
Yeah.
But even that navigation, it was like I had my regular job, which was my banking job, but it was not a full-time job. So I had days off. So I did my days off going in Southern California, trying to become an extra. The show I did the most, I think I've told you before, was Boston Public because the
that
location
was a good show.
It was a great show.
Show.
In a scene, the actress grabbed my hand, so I shook her hand back in a scene where she was supposed to be really happy about something, and the whole student body was excited. So we're supposed to again pantomime and look at her, and she puts her hands out, and I grab them, or she grabs mine, and they were like, "You cannot touch the actress's hands." So I was like, "You guys, she touched my hands."
Excuse me.
But
did you tell your actress that?
And she did. That was a really good show. But no, extra work was really, really fun. But for me, I said, if we're going to talk about these shows, this genre, we have to talk about City Guys because it was good and it was in that same Saved by the Bell.
I mean, I have to find it. I've got to go back and find this. So that's going to be my homework this week.
Okay, let's move on to this one, which I don't think that I think.
Oh yes, that's another Paul Walker one. Love.
I was going to say I don't love it.
What? Why?
Well, for one, we don't have time because this episode's running really long.
I know.
So if it just didn't hit an impression with me in terms of I like Freddie Prinze Jr. movies, and this one, it had Usher in it even. Oh, it was even filmed at my not the high school I went to, but the local high school in the neighborhood, where they filmed the exterior for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and 90210 Torrance High School. So like I should like it, but I never really enjoyed it.
You just wasn't feeling it? I mean, Lil' Kim was in it.
Oh, I love Lil' Kim. Okay, tell me when you're done with your thoughts on She's All That, and I'll tell you why I choose another movie.
I don't think there's anything spectacular about it. I mean, I think it's
See?
kind of a tired story, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it was just kind of silly.
I think it was even
And
funnier.
that was like during the whole Freddie Prinze Jr. craze. So like you watch everything Freddie's in.
So maybe I think this was the most overrated one because I was not into this one, but Down to You was great.
Down
Yeah.
to You. Oh.
We
We have to do like a whole Freddie Prinze Jr. deep dive
Yeah,
because Down to You is by far it was my very first DVD I ever owned when DVDs became a thing.
Yeah.
And I genuinely love that movie.
Tingles and everything. Yeah.
Tingles and everything.
When he's on set at that movie and
Yes.
he goes and he starts and it's the Goo Goo Doll song that's going while he's it's
I
good.
know.
It's so good.
So good. And
Now,
so real. College. Love it. Oh my God. I want to just talk all about it. Okay.
When I say that certain things trump Freddie Prinze Jr.'s She's All That, and no offense to Rachel Lee Cook, I gotta say that Boys and Girls, though it's not really just high school, it's like high school into college.
Mm-hmm.
This one for me is a all the time, can put on at any moment, and I'm always gonna love it. Did you get into this one as much?
I own it. I do. But I believe I own every Freddie Prinze Jr. movie, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
The story of it, I totally get into with the friendship, the friends with benefits kind of thing going awry. I just don't feel like I really liked Claire Forlani in it. I know. I loved her in Meet Joe Black, but I just like I'm sorry, but for this particular thing, I just always was like, oh, why? Sorry. Oh, no.
Well, you know that when I watched it originally, I didn't know she had an accent. And so
yeah.
And
she is great, and it's just my I don't know. It's just like,
but the moment she did announce that accent, like after you found out, is there's that part where she goes, "Oh," and I'm like, that was a weird way to say "oh," and then it makes sense that because I didn't know when I watched it, I had no clue.
And I have not seen that movie in many years, so I wonder if my review would change, like watching it now. I don't know.
Yeah. It turns out it's very much like a Harry Met Sally anyway. It's like very similar to that.
It's very similar to that, yes.
I just thought it was funny, and it's when I say, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier when we were breaking down, I think, Can't Hardly Wait. I said I loved Can't Hardly Wait back then, and I kind of like it now. It's still a 10, but I don't get like excited to see it because you evolve as a person.
But Boys and Girls, you do.
But not this one. No, sorry. If you're not audible, you caught a little bit of a spoiler. No, this one, Boys and Girls, just never not works for me. It puts me in a nice mood.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. I'm gonna have to, yes, because I mean, it definitely goes into when a relationship becomes physical, it definitely changes the dynamic, and it dives into that and what that means for both people. And I appreciate that storyline for sure. I really do. I felt like it really talked about it in such a real way and in such a realistic way that you can relate to, especially when you're in those years. I mean, I don't know how much of that sort of thing you have experienced, but I've had a similar relationship to that. So kind of like I appreciated the story. I related to the story and all of that. So I'm gonna have to watch that movie again.
Well, I struggled with relationships but for various reasons, of course, also the finding yourself moments. But I thought Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character had a lot of finding yourself moments, and not even that. Remember when she makes fun of him and she's like, "Oh, am I your friend or am I your girlfriend's substitute?" Like that knocked me to the core. It had nothing to do with me, but I remember feeling aspects of that too. It's like, and when the movie came out, again, I'm probably like 21 years old, and I think there was the part where she's like, how many 23-year-olds do you know that aren't having sex or whatever? And I don't know, I just like felt like just like filling Ryan's was his name Ryan?
I think so. I think his name was Ryan.
Filling his insecurities, and then the part that really got me, that really got me is when they did have sex. It was to Tyrese's not Last Night, but it's that other one. It's one of Tyrese's best songs, and that will do it for me. That'll do it for me. And then the way he yelled at her at the end, he says, "This was the best thing, and it was like for the first time, I didn't have to plan to actually be happy because what was happening was already making me something like that. You remember that? Remember that?
I do.
And I remember being like, "That's how I talk," and in those navigational moments for me, Ronnie, the straight man of the day, it was a lot of those like, if I were to latch onto something, I really held it tight because I also knew, later on in life, I'd come out and this, and this, and you make changes in your life. But at that time, everything meant a lot. So I felt like I was holding on to everything that he was. So I don't know. Maybe I make it a bigger deal than it is, but that movie.
No,
is so
I mean it's very relatable because I definitely related to that female character. I mean, I had been in a situation like that before where it's like I can't be your replacement girlfriend, where it's like somebody that's it's like a stand-in.
Now we're talking.
I totally get that because I think that when you're in these friendships and you have these close friends, like it's very easy to do that because you have someone that's hanging all the benefits of girlfriend without the intimacy. So it's like I got you in my pocket that you get to do all the girlfriend stuff with me, but I don't have to actually be your boyfriend. And you don't realize it sometimes because
and I think both parties need to realize
totally because you're going through the emotions and you're having fun and you're not thinking about that other person like that. So you're not missing that you're not having sex. You're not missing that that's not happening because you're not thinking that way. And you're basically holding each other back from either a real relationship with each other or a real relationship with someone else because you're like playing house without the house.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like interesting.
If we ever move forward and get like a Patreon or a Twitch, we're going to do a watch and review of that. If we have a fan base that wants to see this, because I'm not letting go of that movie. That is a Ronnie one. I'm not letting go of that.
Yeah.
It is cute.
No,
to me.
All of that it talks about, I definitely have been through that, have had discussions about that with someone in my life. And it's very interesting when you dig deep into that because it's like we can't be placeholders because we don't want to go out and really live life. You know what I mean?
And
like you can't.
If you don't mind me asking, did you explain that to this person? Did you explain that I feel like I'm holding you back even?
Yeah. Like I can't be your like that's what I said. I was like, I can't be your stand-in girlfriend. Like if you need to go out and if that's what you want, like because you're keeping me from because everywhere we go, everybody thinks you're my boyfriend. So nobody's going to hit on me. Like, no, like I'm not going to have that opportunity because you're blocking it and you don't realize that you are. I didn't realize that you were. But now, like, we're not in a relationship together. Like, that's not what we're going to do.
And that's what made her character so good. She goes, by being my friend, you never have to get hurt. That's the beauty of our relationship. Ooh, I'm going to watch it again.
I know. I mean, and all of that I loved about it. So I definitely, I need to watch it again and see if I can get a little clear there.
I love when I can get excited about something and you get into it. And it's the same thing with what we talked about earlier. Like Kelly had said, Drive Me Crazy is phenomenal. I never saw it. I got excited through your recommendation. So I love that we could have that banter with our show here. Let's move along because we do have a lot more to go and it's kind of
I know. Oh my God, the show's so long.
10 things I hate about you. Comments, go.
Fantastic. Loved it. Loved everything about it. I mean, Heath Ledger, of course, was phenomenal, but even like Julia Stiles shined so hard in this movie by being her unapologetic self, which I love so much. It was such a great message to young girls and the way she was trying to show her sister, but also the communication, within your friends, within your family, like that sort of thing. Like be open, be honest, talk about it. You don't have to be silent to protect someone else. Like you need to talk about things.
Right.
Whether they want to hear it or not. But you have to find a common ground to be able to communicate these things and like all the things that they went through. And, she finally let herself be vulnerable and it kind of backfired. And that's what makes love so scary and like all the stuff like the movie. I love it.
And sibling relationships are difficult too.
Yes.
And when they're close in age, and even referencing like within my family, like my father's a twin. And one thing I've noticed about twins is it makes one like the good versus evil or the easygoing versus the high strung. Yeah. And I felt like even with this movie, 10 Things I Hate About You, it makes the one girl, was it Alex or whatever her name was? Or she was.
What was her name? It was Kat and.
because she was from a TV show before. She was from not Nickelodeon. Maybe
Oh, I don't
Nickelodeon.
remember. What was her name? What was her character name?
I can't remember. Yeah.
What was like Alyssa, or was like
Clarissa Explains It All? No.
No. What was her name on this movie? It's gonna drive me nuts.
But don't you think that
Keep
had
talking,
a little bit?
I'm gonna look it up.
Don't you think that had a little bit of to do with it? Like, one is this character, which makes me more this character. You know, oh God, my sister's the one who gives a care about all that stuff. You know, I'm not pretentious like that. I don't care about those things. It kind of pushes you into that space when your sibling is so on the other side.
Totally, because you want to be different. Like, you want to go against that grain. Bianca, totally, that was way off.
And it doesn't give you the permission to like paint with all the colors of the paintbrush. You know what I mean? Like, you can't also be like the pendulum swings so far away, you don't touch that shallow stuff.
Totally. But on an aside, real quick, can we just mention and give props to Gabrielle Union, who was in so many of these fantastic. I adore her. I was going to say, and She's All That. Yeah, she was in that one. She was in She's All That. She was in Bring It On. She's in 10 Things I Hate About You. I mean, I want to mention that before we move on. Okay, so anyway,
and to this day, I always talk so highly. I loved her show. She had a show on BET. It was a movie and then a series called Being Mary Jane, and it was the mix between where she was with her insanely successful news reporting career, but then like where she came from, and even the concept of back home, they called her like her regular name, but then her stage name, you know, ushered her into a different world and money and access and men and, you know, hot men at that. But like how she, you know, had the duality between, you know, those two worlds. So yeah, I'm always a Gabrielle Union fan.
I mean, I was just like I was just watching LA's Finest, like her and Jessica Alba just like kicking ass. Like, I love it.
Oh, good.
I love it.
I've not seen that, but that's perfect.
I mean, it's on Netflix, so you should watch it. But I also like have met Gabrielle like personally. Like, we hosted a party for her at her house, and she's phenomenal, and I just like love her, both of them. But it's just like fun to go back, and like she was just like a supporting role in all these movies, but she shined so bright because even in 10 Things I Hate About You, her one like little things were just funny. The whole thing was like, can you ever just be whelmed? I know you can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed, but can you just be whelmed?
That's funny.
Like, that's a quote shirt I need in my life.
That is funny. I didn't know that 10 Things I Hate About You was in Seattle. I only knew that recently because I was like trying to interview for a job in Seattle. And so I was doing all my research about Seattle. I said, 10 Things I Hate About You. I had no idea, but I guess why not? Moving on.
The dad was fantastic in that movie. Yeah. Bring It On. Fantastic. What I was just talking about, Gabrielle, the East Compton Clovers. I mean, come on.
You know who I loved in this? Of course, Gabrielle Union and Kirsten Dunst, but the Elijah Dushku moment.
Oh,
like, this was like her. This is where everyone really like got to fall in love with her character.
Yeah, she was really good. She was.
This one
is Jesse Bradford. That was Jesse Bradford was in that.
I don't know why I don't recall who Jesse Bradford is.
He was the guy, like he was Elijah Dushku's brother.
Oh, okay.
I guess he didn't like. You didn't like.
No, I remember now. Yeah. Wait, but didn't he end up dating? He ended up dating the lead, right? The Kirsten Dunst character.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. Like, yeah.
I guess it's been a very long time since I've seen that movie, but I'll go back. I'll go back.
But he was like in Swim Fan and like some other stuff.
Yeah, so, I liked it. I thought it was a cute movie. I liked it a lot.
No, it's a great movie. That is one that I will watch anytime it's on television. I love it. I think it's like the Rancho Carnitoros. Like, I love that. And it's funny because for Halloween, a lot of people were doing those costumes. So Gabrielle Union was posting them on her social and like all that. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Just like so many new audiences like watching that movie. I haven't seen any of the sequels. I just haven't, but I mean, you can't beat the original.
Yeah, so I've never seen anything but the original, and I like the original.
Yeah,
and that is.
The spirit fingers, ridiculous.
Yeah. You said Gabrielle Union in so many of these. Even this next one that we're going to talk about, and again, if you're listening audibly, Spotify or Apple or Google, like awesome. But I say come over to difficultpodcasters.com. That is the link that'll take you to the video portion, which is on YouTube. There it is. It's
You
a
can
lot
see
more
all
fun.
the messiness that's happening
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. We don't even know what's going on. Yeah. But you mentioned that Gabrielle Union was in all of these. She also had a very small role in this next one, Love and Basketball.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a good movie.
Now, this is in the same vein of Boys and Girls, where it's not necessarily the coming of age high school story, but it does start with them being younger and they were neighbors and post high school and college and living their lives too. And beyond that, it was a cute movie with Omar Epps, Sanaa Lathan, and there was the brief moment where she played kind of supposedly the fast girl. Gabrielle Union was like, she told Sydney, it was the Sydney character, she goes, "Hey girl, I didn't know Nike made homecoming dresses or something like that." So she was kind of like the smart aleck, but she was known around the neighborhood as kind of the promiscuous girl. So another Gabrielle Union moment.
Yeah, no, she's been in she's been in some stuff. Like she shines when she's in something because you remember those little parts.
We've got Mean Girls coming up. We've got Never Been Kissed, but we are moving here. So the next one we're going to look at is Head of the Class.
Head of the Class. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this show. Such a good show. I used to watch it all the time.
Okay, for one, you've got I forget what is his name, Howard Hessman from KPWR Cincinnati as the lead, as the teacher. But what I loved about this, and this is just so to how I always say how, I was this Southern California kid, that's growing up, but New York always spoke to me. When I watched this, I did not know this was a New York show at all. But maybe it makes sense because the class was just a varied class of, I don't know if you would call them archetypes or whatever, but there was just everybody in the class. It was watching it as a kid. I never even connected New York to it. And then I watched the pilot the other day and I was like, oh, of course it was a New York show because, you get a variety.
Wasn't it on around the same time as 21 Jump Street? I kind of remember
it was around the same time, but I think it was
I remember the parallel of that for some reason.
Why?
Because I don't know if somebody that was on one was on the other. I don't know why those two
Well, that was another thing. All the real cool actors and actresses were
always on everything.
They were booking these shows, and I don't know what to tell you, but I had a very early crush, heavy crush. I mean, on Robin Givens.
Why wouldn't you?
I was very connected to her, and even to the degree of when she did Tony Braxton's music video, He Wasn't Man Enough for Me. I've always liked her. I've always thought she was so beautiful with the cheekbones, this, and this, and Boomerang.
Boomerang. I was just thinking, what is the movie? Yes, as soon as you said Boomerang is her character in Boomerang popped in my head.
And so I always locate back to this as the show. And again, what it was for me is, it wasn't trying to be fame or anything like that, but it was, the high school experience. And I don't know, I just loved the cast. You had the nerd, you had the pretty girl, you had the dork, you had the jock, you had the, it just was great because you are watching these shows and I think this was a little bit younger. I was still I was still 10, 11, 12, 13 watching this. I wasn't exactly, of the age when it was out, but I just liked it so much. I just really was ahead of the class fan.
It was so good.
So I had to bring that up. Now we may have to put this next one as overrated because none of us are getting a thrill off of it by saying it, but we could not put this on the list. Going back to those coming of age stories, life has changed so much, so maybe this is why American Pie is not that damn funny anymore. But yet, I talked to my brother. He's like, I love it.
You know what? I never was really into it. That's not my kind of humor, though. So that's probably why.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Remember when we interviewed Julie Klausner of Hulu's Difficult People? She said, I have trouble writing jokes or being involved in jokes that are on the side of a boner or something like that.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I was like, what does that even mean? And then when you look at American Pie, you're like, everything that was funny was to suffice, a knucklehead.
This one time at band camp.
Yeah, and which is fine. You can do that, but it never worked the other way. Never, it was never, a bunch of girls and they're making fun of the guy for having a little pee-pee or something. It was always the girl was the joke or the hot thing or whatever. And so looking back at it, it served its purpose. I remember really liking it. Stifler drank the drink. That was funny. Stifler's mom, all the stuff. It was great.
Well, it's funny because Jennifer Coolidge, who's now on White Lotus and getting so many accolades for this new show that she's on, and she was recently in an interview talking about how the character of Stifler's mom really got her some action, like back in the day. Like she was banking them boys, and it's so funny that how she just was talking about it. But I love that about her. I mean, she's phenomenal, and I'm so happy to see that she's doing so much more stuff now because she's hilarious and fantastic in everything that she does.
Yeah. One good thing to mention too, if you're going to go to the parents of the show, Eugene Levy was in it as well.
Yeah,
and he had quite the interesting Jason Biggs, banter in terms of the character because he had to basically know and absorb what had happened and explain it to we're not going to explain this to your mother, it was
but by not belittling him or making fun of him. I mean, the way that he handled it was such a I understand what's happening, this is what we're going to do, and it's just but his delivery is always so amazing that that's what makes it hilarious.
And from Buffy and also from How I Met Your Mother, Allison Hannigan.
Allison Hannigan,
she did have the line of the movie. She had the unexpected. Yeah.
I mean, if you just see like this one time, you already will finish the sentence.
Yeah. So maybe it wasn't as, like I said, I just remember it being so amazing, and we are not who we used to be. Like
a
when
lot
this came
of
out,
great one-liners have come from this movie, but it's not one that I will go back to watch.
Yeah.
Only again because that sort of humor is just not really like my thing. But I mean, I appreciate it for what it was.
Now, Natasha Lyonne was in this one, right?
Yes, sure, yes.
But outside of her, none of the characters, but the actors, none of them really exploded within their careers, but it felt like they were all destined for.
Well,
am I wrong by saying that? I feel bad if I.
Let's go back. Let me look at that photo again real quick.
Okay, well, hear what I'm saying. When it came out, it was like, maybe because it was like when MTV TRL was out.
Sorvino, like after that, like she did American Beauty. American Beauty. And then Allison Hannigan had the whole How I Met Your Mother and like all of that. I mean, what's his face? Stifler. What's his actual name? He did like that movie with The Rock. Sean William Scott. Like he did that movie with The Rock and like some other stuff.
Yeah, but wasn't all that in like? But then again, anyways, I'm not.
I mean, I don't know, but no, I don't know.
I'm just saying when this
Jason Biggs didn't blow up as much as it
that's what I'm getting at. When this came out, it was like the MTV TRL moment, and then it was like they all had a lot of things going on. Because
after this, he did what? Loser. He did Boys and Girls. He did like the sequels. Yeah. I think maybe one or two of those American Pie sequels.
Yeah, and it's not like he's not doing sitcoms, or it's not like
he did some sitcoms and stuff. But it just like not to the. I see what you're saying, but not to like the level of what you would expect like that breakout to get you.
Yeah, because they were the it cast. That's what it is. You know, and Tara Reid had her problems or whatever, but they were such the it cast. It just. Sometimes surprises me.
Same thing with like Chris Klein. You would have thought he would have done so much, like so many more bigger things. I mean, he's on that like Magnolia show right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not knocking anybody. I mean,
no. But
somebody's watching this. They're like, "Who are they?"
No, but I know what you're saying. Like, no, because some people like go on to do, like we were talking about the Dawson's Creek cast. I mean, Michelle Williams has played Marilyn Monroe. She's like in the Venom movies. She's done some really, Brokeback Mountain. She's done some really high profile stuff. And like these like they've done some indie stuff, like they've done some great stuff, but you would have thought that it would have been in a little bit more like more studio, like higher studio level, and it just didn't end up being that way. Yeah. But it just goes to show like you don't ever know.
That you have your run, it doesn't guarantee anything, and that's why you really should not get mad at yourself career-wise, because you just don't know where each person's career will go. Because again, I see this picture and I'm like, this was a moment, and it.
But then you look at Can't Hardly Wait, and like all of those people went to such phenomenal places,
Yeah.
and you would have never
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
I mean, there were even like some of the, and there were so many more people in that movie than were on that photo
Oh yeah.
that are
Yeah.
doing big things.
Mhm.
You know,
Agreed.
like so many. It's
So
crazy.
Gwyneth.
So many. But it's crazy. So
Yeah.
you never know what where
Yeah.
things are going to
And
go.
I only
how it's
say
gonna
it with
turn out.
love too, because it's such a hard career
Oh
that
yeah.
it's like anyone that we're mentioning from these films when they came out, not everyone gets to be Gabrielle Union. You know, she's only continues to grow. She only continues to
But
be.
she also was. I don't know if this was I don't know if this was a strategy. I'm guessing, but she also went from lead roles to bit parts to lead roles to bit parts to lead roles to bit parts. So she
Mm,
kind of navigated her career a little bit more that way,
yeah.
which I feel like was really smart.
Well, that'll be an interesting topic for another day, like how to
Mhm.
navigate like becoming, because
And who's to say you even really have a say so? I don't know.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, because kids nowadays, not kids, but like people with TikTok, they want to
Mhm.
blow up overnight. Like basically American Pie, that cast blew up overnight. What is that? How do you sustain that? So we'll have to revisit
Yeah.
it. And
No,
Gabrielle Union
totally.
has, and Natasha Leone, she has in terms
But
of
she
her.
had a lull, and then
Well,
it picked
well, I was
back
gonna
up.
say she's had a low, but I was saying her artistry is appreciated, of course. I love
Oh
Russian
yeah.
Doll, by the way, but
Mhm.
she had some problems too. Like
Mhm.
interpersonal issues. So it's a
Mhm.
tough
She also had
industry.
like a bit part in one of my favorite movies, which is called Sleeping with Other People. If I haven't made you watch that yet, you must watch it.
I would comment on it because I think I know, but we have no time to wait.
I know. If you have not seen Sleeping with Other People, watch it immediately
This was
because I love
supposed
it.
to be our quick show, by the way.
I know, and it's like 2
Okay,
hours long. Okay, we gotta
quickly,
go.
Sunset Park, just adding it to these coming of age,
Look at that young Terrence Howard.
high school movies of when we were also in class of 98 or whatever. So this really makes Kelly and myself reminisce. Sunset Park was good because, well, I mean, Sunset Park, New York, that's one, but Rhea Perlman was in it. Yes, a young Terrence Howard from Onyx, Fred Rose Star.
Mhm.
It was good. And like I said, a lot of these, much like He Got Game, which was a Spike Lee film, I would watch because, like I said, I grew up in such a sports household. So I wouldn't even look at this as like a high school movie. I would look at more as like the sporting story. Well, not really this one, because this one was more sports meets obstacles in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
He Got Game was sports meets still obstacles, but He Got Game was a really good one. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
Rosario Dawson was in that. I loved Rosario. We didn't put kids on the list, by the way.
No, but that's
Another topic for
that's a
another time.
hard movie. That's like, yeah, oof.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go to a fluffier moment.
Never Been Kissed. My favorite, Drew Barrymore, who I can never stop gushing about because I absolutely adore her.
I'll say.
I just do. I just love her.
Kelly spent 2 consecutive hours talking. I mean, in duration of our show. Like if we were to clip all the times you talked about Drew Barrymore, it'd be like 2 hours worth. No, I'm joking.
I need to meet her one day. Like, I'm sad that
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
I've got to make it happen.
We'll make her.
But
a
no,
guest on this
I
show.
genuinely totally adore her because I just do. But Never
This
Been
was a
Kissed is
great
one of my all-time favorite movies because if you ever had to revisit all of the insecurities you ever had in school that you never got over, holy shit. I don't know that I would ever want to. But it was just so awesome and hilarious to watch her go through that, but also the camaraderie that her brother gives her.
Yeah.
Selfishly, a little bit selfishly, but he still does it.
Yeah.
But to get her back into that popular crop, that's another one. Jessica Alba is in that one with funny little bit part.
I think it was just fantastic. I didn't watch it a lot when I was younger.
What? That kiss.
Hey, hey, relax. Let me finish.
Oh
I watched
God.
it a little bit later, but I did latch hold to it after, and I do think the kiss at the end was great.
I mean, one of the best movie kisses, like one of the best cinematic kisses.
I also really like him as a lead. I don't know what his name is.
Oh,
Can you call men petite? He's petite, but like something really works about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not being a hater. I wish I was petite.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Why am I so like brain farting right now? Hold on, I gotta find out what his name. Keep talking. I'm gonna.
You don't have to find out his name.
I
Anyway,
need to, like, for myself. I need to keep going.
Okay. Wow. Live. Inquiry there.
We do our own research here.
No, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I took to it after. But for whatever reason, it didn't really feel
Michael
like a
Vartan.
movie. Yes. From
Yeah.
Alias. Yeah. Right? No.
Yeah. But
it
David
was-
Arquette was her brother. That hilarious, so great.
Yeah.
You know, Molly Shannon, John C. Reilly, who was funny and fantastic in this movie. I mean, it was a great cast. Gary Marshall. I mean, Gary Marshall would come in and just destroy those scenes. Like, he was just phenomenal always. But there was there were some great people in this movie. Octavia Spencer even had a small part in that movie, which is funny. Even
I think I remember.
There's some great people in this movie, but this was like such a good movie. So funny.
The next one I'm going to say, not that it was overrated, I just never watched it back then or now, but people seem to love October 3rd Mean Girls.
How can you not have watched it?
Okay, so like, do you remember when Scream Queens came out? And that was supposed to be Mean Girls.
Yes.
I liked that humor way better than I liked Mean Girls. I don't know. I just didn't. It was too Tina Fey for me or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, she wrote it, so.
Yeah. I just remember when I watched Scream Queens, which is a Ryan Murphy, people would make the little like comparisons. Not that they're anything alike, but just like it was what's her name? She's the daughter. She's the niece of Julia Roberts, Emma Roberts.
Oh, Emma Roberts.
And I loved her mean girl vibe in Scream Queens.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I finally watched Mean Girls, I was like,
you didn't care for Regina George?
No.
You didn't like Rachel?
I don't think so. I mean, if anything, I would say, and again, I'm not being mean because what talent do I have? But I think, if anything, the Lacey Chavert, whatever her name is,
she was a scene stealer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So fetch.
Yeah.
You know what your Christmas present from me is gonna say?
Oh, no.
To a fugly slut. That's what yours is gonna say.
Okay, I got it. Is the Burn Book. That was weird. That was the Burn Book.
Mm-hmm.
Is that real? Like, I guess
I mean, it's like a mean diary. Sure.
Yeah. It was just the Tina Fey-ness of it all, I guess. I don't know. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal.
No, it's not.
Any last thoughts?
But that's an interesting take on it. Okay.
What did I do?
That you didn't like it. Yeah. No, I'm just surprised.
It's fine. It's fine if it's on the TV.
But I don't know Scream Queens well enough to debate you on.
Well, I shouldn't even bring it to the conversation because they're not the same. But I'll say, here's a great way to say it. If Mean Girls is on one channel, I'm putting on the TV. And like Miss Congeniality's on, I'm putting Miss Congeniality over Mean Girls.
Okay.
If Never Been Kissed is on, I'm watching that over Mean Girls.
Okay.
If the paint drying
she doesn't even go here. Okay.
If the paint drying Olympics is on, I'm watching that over Mean Girls. Yeah. I'm joking. It's not that bad. It's a great movie. So let me not. It is a really good movie. Let me not. Go ahead, Lindsay Lohan. And yeah, it's fine. Okay, so this next one.
I have a fifth sense.
They filmed this at my high school. So remember we were talking about. Yeah. You were talking about your sister at one of the Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues. They filmed it.
Yeah, they filmed it, yes. And I had mentioned that 90210 and what's the other one? Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
They were at the neighborhood just down the way, where we grew up, Torrance High. That was the exterior, and she's all that. But actually was Trippin, which was filmed at Narbonne High School. So that's kind of cool. And that's all I got on it. Sadly, the character that was so beautiful and she was like kind of becoming the next big thing, Maia Campbell, she had ran into a lot of problems, in her personal life. And she at the time was just so striking. And and it's sad to see. I'm not going to make any judgment. I'm just going to say because she was the female lead
Yeah.
in that, and it's just so crazy. Like 1 minute she was the girl actually who was in a bunch of the Tyrese music videos. Going back to Tyrese, she was in all of those. Yeah, when things were a little bit more healthy, I guess you would say. So, anyways, no judgment, but just saying. And you know what? It also made me think. Beyond that, it made me think. There's not a lot of these movies and shows now on of the genre, but there is one that I did take notice of that's pretty cool called All American.
Oh, she was in Poetic Justice too. Oh yeah, keep going.
All American, which this one's mostly, it's a what do you call it, based on a true story. So you also have that element too. So it does give you the like coming of age high school moments, but it's also like an actual story of an actual football player too. But it just makes me think this genre, which boomed so big in the 80s,
it's so different now.
It's so different now. We'll get to that because I want to get your Euphoria opinions, or if you have them. I don't really, but let's comb through this and then we'll get there.
Oh my god, this is gonna be like the longest episode ever, you guys.
Okay, quick, like, Clueless, go. What do you think? Go.
Oh my god, Clueless. Oh my god, so good. All of it, love it. It's ridiculous and amazing and everything all at once.
And it made you fall in love with Paul Rudd, I guess. So there you go.
Oh, totally. And he still looks the same.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they all really do.
No, Paul Rudd like legitimately looks the same.
Stacey Dash sure knows how to step in it,
yeah.
But things change, and of course, tragically.
Again,
Brittany.
So many great one-liners out of this movie. There was some questionable storylines now that you look back on it in today's society, but overall, super fun movie.
Yeah, I've had a friend. He did a podcast devoted to the movie and mentioned like what you say, but I still think that this is a good enough movie. You can still go back.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think it was
celebrate.
anything. I don't think it was like.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could still celebrate it.
It's not as bad as some of the ones you go back to and revisit, and you're like, holy shit, was that really like in a movie we watched? Wow. But no, that one's like one of the tamer ones, but I mean, it's still great.
Yeah.
So many Halloween costumes came out this year of Clueless. Donald Faison's daughter did a Dion, which was adorable. And there was also this little, like these two little girls that did a whole like Cher and Dion moment, which was adorable.
Well, and how much did we love that they were named Cher and Dion also?
Oh, I know.
What made me
named after great singers of the past.
What was so interesting about this is, how I always say, growing up in SoCal, I would see the shows and the film and the music videos of New York, and I was like, I need to be there. I never realized, even though Clueless doesn't necessarily exist, I never knew how many people looked at Clueless like that's where I want to aspire.
Can I tell you? Do you remember my apartment in the Valley? It was down the street from that clown liquor store that she got held up at.
Oh, okay.
Because when she goes to that Valley party, she
Yeah.
was in Sun Valley, which was basically North Hollywood. So when she was
Oh,
at
Sun
that
Valley,
when she
yes.
was at that liquor store, it was like legit down the street from my Toluca Lake apartment.
And Sun Valley is desolate like that. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
it
Yeah.
is. So like, yeah. So I remember when I first moved over there, being very new to LA and like whatever, it was like such a big deal because that was the liquor store.
Yeah. I watched it because at the time I was still, coming from being in more of the suburb, the part of Southern California that I grew up in. And so when she said, "Oh, nobody goes, south of Sepulveda," I was like, "Bitch, now."
And it's like parking. Why? Everywhere you go has valet. So true. And her dad is like, "What do you mean? Everywhere in LA takes 20 minutes. Where are you driving to?"
Well, that was one thing. I like more so how he says, "Well, tell me what the problem is, and I'll tell you how we argue it out." Now, that to me was great. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even though it's such an exaggerated truth, like people would watch in wherever they came from, and they wanted like that, like to them that was Los Angeles life, even though it's so accentuated.
And one thing that I find so funny in most movies is if you watch the drive from the airport to wherever they're going, there's always like a PCH shot. I'm sorry, but you're never getting from LAX to anywhere on PCH. Like, it's not real. Sorry to burst your
Oh
bubble.
yeah, they make it look like
They
you
make
touch
it
down,
and then you
take
like
you
you're
take this,
on the
yeah.
beach. So this
If you go to
beautiful drive. No.
yeah, if you're going to
No.
Malibu as your final destination, sure, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
you're
you're not
not
gonna
getting to Beverly Hills from the
no,
PCH. Like,
yeah.
no.
But I mean, that's how the B-roll
But
shots
it's
have to
like,
be.
but it's like funny because it's like
Yeah.
you're in the Hollywood Hills, and then all of a sudden you're like driving through the canyon in 2 seconds. No.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I've had conversations with people. They're like, "Yeah, there's people like that." I'm like, "No, it's an accentuated. It's an extra
No.
thing. It's not, And they're like kind of referencing there's very posh people for sure.
Oh
Yes,
no,
there
for sure.
is, but not this whole thing. And that's what people would watch and be like, "I want that. Like, I want to go navigate that life." But it's not really a thing.
It still takes longer than 20 minutes to get anywhere, I promise.
Yeah.
It
But
doesn't
again,
matter how much money you have.
I don't agree with it now, but at the time when she was like, "Oh yeah, south of Sepulveda," I was like, "Excuse me, we, the normal, the regular
If I had
people."
a choice, I wouldn't go south of Sepulveda either. But
Well-
but I lived south of Sepulveda, so I'm not going to say anything.
And what I'm also saying is the person who I was then versus now, I'm like, I don't want to go
That's
either. It has
if I had
changed.
a choice.
Yeah, now I'm rolling with the homies. That's where I want to be, for sure. But it was good in the costuming. They had Christian and that was not really ever explained, but like
Oh no, but it was because there's the car scene where he's where Donald Faison's character explains it.
yeah, well, yeah. I just thought it was
like,
cute.
enough.
Looking
and they're
back,
like, but even the reaction to it is always like, oh,
yeah.
I can't believe I'm such a bonehead. Like there was no negativity toward it. It was just
no, that was good.
And that
I
was
just
what was great.
I liked how cute it was in the regards of like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but you're right. It's the reaction to Cher. It was the reaction to Cher.
But there was no negativity. There was not even from him.
Yeah.
When he was explaining it, he was just
and
like, "Yo, are you guys blind? Like, what the fuck?" And then they're like, "Oh."
Yeah, and we didn't see him in a bad place either. He was just more like kind of what you were saying earlier about boys and girls, how you've been the girl who's like, "Oh God, I got to tell this guy to stop being my like replacement girlfriend." It's the same thing. He just wanted to hang out with his friend, and then he was like, "Oh, I should be going," where he didn't make a big deal of it or whatever. So that part of the movie was really great too. Paul Rudd being the brother and the lover. I don't. Let's move on from that.
He wasn't really the brother. Come on.
She was funny though. Oh, the Pismo Beach disaster relief, so good. Daddy, like she was so funny. Okay, moving on because we got a couple more.
Oh my God, it was so long. Save the Last Dance. Oh my gosh, one of the best Julia Stiles movies. Sean Patrick Thomas. Love the story. We get an early Kerry Washington in this movie. I mean, lots of good shit came out of this one.
I think of early Kerry Washington so much. I don't know why. I'm always like, wow, that girl became huge. Like huge. And what's even more funny is not that I know the guy, but one of the guys I went to high school with, he wasn't in my grade. His brother was closer in my grade. He ended up marrying Kerry Washington.
Oh no shit!
Yeah, nice. He was an ex-football player, and he's an actor now too. Nnamdi Asomugha or whatever married Kerry Washington, and he went to at least a couple years. He went to other schools too, but he went to Narbonne High School the 2 years or something like that, 3 years. Yeah, but back to Save the Last Dance. I mean, not easy story, but like nothing breaking the mold or whatever, but cool usage of contemporary and the dance world in the highest form,
but also interracial relations and going through all of that I thought was really interesting, and also like it was super relatable for me, and I think I liked.
Are you a dancer?
No, not with that, with like the relationship.
Oh, okay, got it.
So like I went through like a similar thing with that. So when this movie came out was like at the same time where I had a relationship, and just dealing with like some of those similarities was really funny.
Yeah.
Not like but it was good to see and like all that. And I think that's why
Right.
that movie like holds such a special place for
I
like
even
aside from the dancing was fantastic.
I even love where her character goes in terms of like she had to move. She didn't, right? Her mother wasn't in the picture anymore, or
Her mother passed away, so
passed
she ends up
away. So
she
you
was living with
also,
her mother. She had to
yeah.
go back and live with the father that she didn't know.
And I love the way, I guess we said Sean Patrick,
Thomas.
how he really brought that, all of that love she had for dance. He really was the one who grabbed it and
Yeah.
reaffirmed her
Mhm.
love for it. I mean, it was
Mhm.
just so good. It was so good.
There were so many good parts, and then she realizes that she got a lot of her, a lot of that artistic side from her dad because her dad was a musician. She was getting to know him, and they were just like the relationship between the two of them. Like she was supporting him on his way to be a doctor, and he was helping her with her dance stuff. But they went through some scrutiny and all that with their relationship, and just kind of not really being accepted. But she was like the main outcast in this scenario and situation. And
Well, yeah, she just moved there. I mean, and
yeah.
her attitude wasn't up to par. Like she really was,
I mean, she was a fish out of water, and it
she
was
was
just
grumpy
like
by
that
based on the
whole.
situation. Yeah.
Mhm.
I loved, as simple as this is, I love the whole like keep pushing the arts. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna
Yeah.
be good in this more modern style, but you should know the classical techniques. Like even though that's like such a given, it's kind
No,
of
but
not
the meshing of
sometimes.
the two was really nice. Like she
Yeah.
took from him and mixed it with what she already knew and just kind of created this other style and was able to merge her two worlds together, and it was like showed very beautifully in her, her artistic expression, and it was good to see that like all the stress, the trauma and all that, like she built that and she put it out into her art, and I think that is a good message because it's like you take all of that and you push it
Yeah.
out into something positive and beautiful.
There was a radio interview once by Ebro of Hot 97, and he was talking to Azealia Banks, and she has always had lots of issues. Her music is fantastic, but she's always has stuff, and he would be like, just put it in the music. And so like kind of in a way, this is what that, even though through
Yeah.
dance, it's like put all the stuff through the art. Easier said than done, easier said than done when it comes to dedication,
But
discipline.
the people that can do that,
Mhm.
I have such admiration for it because if you're able to take that and translate it into something that you can push out, it's such an amazing thing, and it's such a gift to be able to do that.
That and whatever it is that is your art,
Mhm.
keep like trying to experience every facet of it. Like don't just do the part that you enjoy. Like, you know what I mean? You
But the
should
hard
always,
stuff and the bad stuff and the
you could be like, I'm just a pop star, like a singer or whatever. Well, I don't know. Maybe you should spend some time listening to Mozart too, just because that can like inspire some stuff within you. Even with what we do, like, someone could say it's not a skill set to podcast radio, but the reality is for me, I'm always trying to push a little bit and watch those old Johnny Carson, clips or
But
whatever.
it is a talent to be able to move a conversation along because I can go off on a tangent for days, and you have to be able to like turn it back in, rein it back in, and keep it on track and on task. And that, my friend, is actually a talent because
I think
everybody can sit and talk about all kinds of shit, but to be able to keep it afloat, keep it on topic, and actually have a segue into it, that is a talent.
I think the big point that I'm making too, as we push forward here, is I love the crossing and the cross pollination, I guess, of all of the different arts and how they make you better at one thing. I used to say that when I was doing radio and then I moved on to segment producing, I was like, lo and behold, that made me better at radio, and vice versa. Being in front of the camera and being a TV host or whatever, or being on a reality TV, camera is on you, like it makes you good at this. Like they're all different, but yet they're all the same. So it's enjoyable. And that movie gave me a lot of that. It gave me a lot. And it's Julia Stiles, like you said. Bianca Lawson, I think her name was one of the actresses. And her dad is the one that married Beyonce's mom.
Oh.
Yeah, Richard Lawson's daughter is Bianca. She was like, I guess, like a villain in the show, in the movie.
Nice.
Yeah. She was the one that like made sure she would dance with the more provocative moves.
She was like the ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, she was putting it on him. Yeah. Okay,
sure.
So we could wrap this up, but we definitely got to put this one up here. This is talking about all these coming of age, you know, kind of at the time that Kelly and I were, you know, class of 98, woo woo.
I know. Now that we have a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah. But we wanted to at least end with 90210. But the reality
Yes.
is, we love the show a lot, like everyone does, and so we may have to do a part 2 or a whole 90210 breakdown. But what do you want to just say about 90210? Out of everything that we mentioned, is this the pinnacle for you?
I mean, it definitely is. Of all of the shows, the original like first few seasons of 90210 are my ultimate favorite. I mean, Brenda and Dylan and all of the trauma and the drama and everything going through their relationship and her figuring out her way to navigate Beverly Hills and her new friends and their money and all the things, and just figuring out who she was, and being chosen by one of the most popular guys in school also had its own pressures, which I think put some stuff on her, and then her comparing herself to her friends and and their parents, and there was just so many things that this show hit on, which I think were very vital in, especially for me, like moving so many times and moving into different places and having to interact with so many different kinds of people. So I just really resonated with that.
I love kind of what we mentioned earlier, how if you're a sibling or a twin with somebody, you inherently become, I'm the good one, you're the bad one, I'm the reserved one, I'm the outspoken one. Well, Brandon kind of became the really nice, easy to get along with type of guy, and Brenda became, a little bit more oil and vinegar with a lot of the
I
situations.
mean, she definitely pushed the boundaries more. She was a little more wanted to bend the rules and break the rules and kind of push her limits and see what she could do. I mean, she wasn't as much of a go with the flow and I can only do this because this is what's right, the way Brandon was. And when Brandon did go off the rails, it was like when the good became too much and then he couldn't
and that did
handle
happen.
it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Sanders, what do you think about him?
Oh my God, he always got on my nerves. but I think he's the kind of character it's necessary.
Yeah.
Definitely necessary, yes.
I have nothing bad to say about David Silver, but I don't like that Brian Austin Green has dated everybody. Like there's just something that really, I have vertigo.
Like in real life?
Well, for one, he's damaged the one I love more than anybody. Ronnie does have his few female crushes, you know what I mean? And I say Rosario Dawson all the time, but Vanessa Marcil was the girl.
Okay.
And no, Vanessa, why?
I mean, David got pretty hot, I have to say.
Oh, so you kind of liked it too.
I mean, when he went from that geeky wanting to be the DJ in school and then he grew up. I mean, he was.
Remember when he was doing
the radio? He grew into himself very well.
Remember when he was doing? Well, I wanted to see what you think about putting him next to Brandon and Dylan in terms of looks. But wait, hold on that. Remember when he was David was the DJ and he had Shanice come to the school or something like that? I love your smile.
Remember when he had his own album and all that stuff? Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had a Joey Lawrence pop and beat pop rap
hip hop kind of deal. Yeah, he did.
Of those early
years, Vanessa, that was a pretty rough. That whole situation's pretty rough. Just kind of from what's publicly known about.
Oh, you're saying in real life?
In real life. In real life. That's just an unfortunate.
I think there was some reconciling when.
I think so.
He was on Dancing with the Stars, and I think things have smoothed out to a degree. So that's good.
Yeah, in the last few years, I feel like they have, yeah.
But, okay, so you are rocking hard with the early years. So did you ever return to loving some of the later stuff? Or you just kind of...
I mean, I watched it. I did. I just... honestly, after Shannon Doherty left, I never really was a big fan. I really... I liked her character a lot. I thought it added so much depth to the show in general. Just the way that either they... Maybe it's both the way that they wrote it and the way she portrayed it. I don't know. But I feel like she was so needed. So when she wasn't there, it was all right. It was fine. I was never really a big Kelly fan. I thought I just never really was. A lot of her shit got on my nerves, but I don't know. I watched it. I didn't love it. It's the first few years were kind of where I was
In
at
the
with it.
early years, something that was not slept on, but we don't talk about enough was a lot of the complex stuff with Andrea Zuckerman. Like, I
Yeah.
really, going back looking at it, like, not only
Mhm.
from what was it, like a socioeconomic situation where
Like
she could
wrong
not
side of the
live with the
track
rest, she
stuff
couldn't
and all
live with
that.
them, but she was the most scholastically achieved person.
Mhm.
There was some Jewish, issues that she
Yeah.
had to go. It was really done well, and she always really held Brandon accountable. And then she became the earliest pregnant
Yeah, she was
of
like
of
the teen mom.
the group there.
Mhm.
And funny enough, Gabrielle Gutierrez, whatever her name,
Uh-huh.
she now president of SAG or something like
Yeah,
that now.
she is.
So that's just cool to me. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know why like that. Maybe I could equate it to like her experiences. Maybe some of the things she had to put up with, all the BS along the
Mhm.
journey as an actress. Maybe it pushed her and positioned her to take on
Yeah,
that
because
role.
she's running things now over at SAG, which is
What do
pretty
we
awesome.
think of?
She also had like a recently she had a supporting part on one of the 911s.
I saw it. I wasn't going to mention
Yes.
it because I thought it was something small, but Ronnie loves the
I know
911,
you do.
specifically 911 Lone Star. But I got to tell you, yeah, I watched that. She was in a blimp, and the blimp went
Yes,
down.
the blimp.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
For anyone who's wondering, 911 Lone Star, significantly better. Sorry, Angela Bassett, because I do love Angela Bassett, but 911 doesn't do it for me. But the Lone
Let
Star.
me tell you something about Lone Star real quick as an aside because I have to.
Can I guess? Can I guess what it is?
Mhm.
You don't like it because it's BS, because that's not what Austin looks like.
Yes. Nothing about Austin is real in that show, and it annoys the crap out of me.
Maybe that's
I
why
live in
don't
Austin right now. I grew up in Austin. Like none of the way that it's perceived, it totally annoys me. And it's
Maybe
not
that's
even
why.
shot here.
That's true too.
Mhm.
Maybe that's why I don't like the LA one, because it's like I don't want to drive by the freaking Santa Monica Promenade and know that the whole promenade is going to be coming out of the ground. It's a little too close,
Yeah.
Driving up Mulholland, and I'm like, oh gosh, here comes the earthquake
Mhm.
that we just saw on 911. So
Right.
too close.
No,
To
but it's like the way that they talk about it's just not real. Like not even close in my opinion. And I grew up here. I just ugh. I mean people
Well,
that just moved here maybe are like it's totally Austin. Ugh, no.
well, she's gonna have to wash her mouth out with soap, because we do not talk bad about Rob
No,
Lowe.
I love
and
Rob Lowe. I listen to
Yeah.
his podcast. I've read his books. I love one of my all-time favorite movies is a Rob Lowe movie about last night, which I asked you to watch. I don't know if you ever did.
And I did the Chicago-based one, yes, with what's his
With
name,
Demi Moore and
yeah,
Jim
Demi Moore, and
Jim Belushi. Mhm.
yeah. Why did you ask me to watch that?
Because I love it.
Oh, I thought it was because
No,
I
it
always
was
say
a reason.
I love a one night stand, but I want to make them always at least a 2-night stand, and I felt like there was a little bit of that in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
love that. One of my all-time favorite movies. If you have not seen it, please
Yeah.
go watch the original About Last Night, not this remake
Yeah.
bullshit.
And
The
listen,
original.
you all listening, we will at some point just break down one topic, like all things 90210.
Sorry.
This just to me felt like I wanted to do something that celebrated again us in our 40s, thinking about these great 80s movies, like you said. Who was the Hughes?
Oh, John Hughes, yeah. But
and then
About Last Night was in the 80s.
yeah, and how that evolved and transcended into what the things that look like in the 90s, and even we could talk lightly about it, what it all became, Euphoria and stuff like that. And even if it is healthy to be that real and authentic,
Well, I
or
think
whatever.
the interesting thing about the way television and movies have evolved is it's just become way more detailed in what it actually shows and what is screen worthy and what is allowed in our society to be on television now.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting because the things that you see and the words that you hear and the way that characters are depicted are so different than they were when we were watching them. And it kind of makes me nervous now for what my niece is going to be watching because it's kind of like there's no holds barred on television. Like you see it all, you hear it all, like it's all out there. And I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. Like, I love the artistic expression. I love the reality of it to a certain extent,
Mhm.
but I still feel like you don't necessarily, there's some stuff that doesn't have to be. Like,
Well, going
you
to
know,
90210, and this is such a big reach, so if I don't nail it, just give me a moment. That's what we loved about 90210, because even though they were talking about some really deep issues, Donna Martin, she was the virginal character,
Mhm.
and she didn't drink, or she was like the more, the pure character. But for the most part, everyone was a little bit wild, not the rambunctious wild that we see in Euphoria. But you always had a character like an Andrea Zuckerman, who was scholastically like it. Just I feel like sometimes we're not getting the layers and the
You're getting
well-roundedness.
no, you're not getting all the different archetypes.
Yeah,
You're getting a more of one versus the other. There's not a
it's like
balance.
candy. It's like Dylan was fantastic, but what made Dylan fantastic is because he was ice cold, living in a hotel. Well, he didn't live in a hotel at the beginning, but he had all that money or whatever the case. But it was his relation to everyone else. He got to be, what's up, Bran? What's up, Kel? He got to be that way because of who he was and his non-relationship with his mother and his father, or his bad
But you
relationship with his
saw
father.
layers to him.
That's what
He
I'm getting
just
at.
wanted to
Yeah,
be a high school kid and he was
yeah,
never allowed to do that. And he looked for help other places and he relied on the parents of his friends and his girlfriend. And he, reached out to other people for this help that he didn't get from his parents. But you watched all that, you saw all that. And you're right. I feel like sometimes in these newer versions of shows or series, they're so focused on what's happening in the now that you miss the layers.
yeah.
You miss like the behind what's happening of what's actually making these characters react and act in these certain ways kind of doesn't get as much airtime because you just want the shock value. You want to put out that whole like oh my gosh moment, and you want the clickable headlines, and you want like all of
Right.
that, so some of that depth gets a little left out.
Well, that's the weird thing. As regular human beings, we'll talk for 30 minutes, and in that 30 minutes, one polarizing topic will happen. But the other 28 minutes, it's like not fluff, but it's just fun banter. The
Right.
shows now feel like all 28 minutes need to have like
Yeah,
well, this could be clipped out, and this could go to
totally.
the New York Post could write about this, never before seen on TV, and it's like every minute of the show is like that.
And that's just evolution. I think that's just
Yeah,
what it is. It's just how we've evolved, and with social media and more so the immediate gratification and getting everything now, and you don't have to
yeah.
wait.
And I definitely feel, I mean, not to like, here we are being the parents, but I don't want to make it like, well, let's say for video games like Grand Theft Auto and all these things have negative influences on the upcoming generations. But to a degree, they do. But it's also, you don't put all your eggs in the basket of blaming
Right.
the shows and the video games. But there is still some part of it that's like, do you know what's out there? So since you do, make sure you're taking care of your children, because they're getting exposed to a lot of really big things at a really early
Right, but then
early
that
stage.
goes back
Go,
to you have to monitor. You can't just stick your kid in
yeah,
front of a tablet and a
yeah,
TV and a phone and just be like, "Here, entertain yourself,"
yeah,
because the library of shit they're going to entertain themselves with is
yeah.
pretty scary.
So I'm not saying to blame one thing over another.
No.
I'm just more like, I guess what I'm saying is, because me, I don't have nieces or nephews, but you have a niece, and it's like you got to kind of think like, oh man, what is that going to be like? We're here, class of '98. I don't know, what is your niece, class of what, 2030
75, I don't know.
or
But
something? Like, what is that going to be like? In
right.
terms of the pressure, in
I
terms
mean,
of the
right
stuff.
now, when I'm listening to what she's watching on her tablet, like I have to listen to what these little kids are talking about, because now it's all these like influencer kids, right? So it's all these parents that are filming their kids doing all kinds of like they're reenacting all this kinds of shit. And they're trying to teach lessons of you have these kids like wiling out, and by the end of the video, it's like, oh, you shouldn't lie or you shouldn't fight or like whatever. But when you've got a kid, depending on what age they are, they don't have the attention span to wait to the end of the video to get that you're not supposed to do whatever these kids are doing. They're just looking at what these kids are doing and they're running amok, and oh, that's fun. So as a parent or guardian, if you're not listening to that and knowing how to filter out depending upon the age of your child, they can't differentiate that shit. That's up to you to
Yeah.
teach them. Because if
Again,
you just let them loose, there's all kinds of crazy shit.
again, no judgment. I'm not a parent.
No, no,
I
no,
can't
no.
state how it's going to be, but coming from as we're looking at this scope of the 80s movies were still provocative to a degree, but they were
Mhm.
Ferris
They're
Bueller's
pretty
Day
tame.
Off,
They're pretty tame.
they were, Breakfast Club, and you just wonder, where we're going. I think for us, we were very lucky to be smack dab in the Clueless bubble and the 90210 bubble and the Saved by the Bell and the She's All That and the City Guys, can't hardly wait, but it is just it's just something to think about. But these shows and movies, they made me happy. So I'm glad we took some
Oh yeah, I
time.
mean there's so many more great ones that we just don't have time to listen. I mean, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Fantastic.
Oh, with Christina
Christina
Applegate.
Applegate, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Such a good one. I
yeah,
mean, love it. My sister and I, we own a business together, so constantly we're quoting that. I'm right on top of that, Rose. It's basically like, tell me to do something one more time. It's
Yeah.
just,
And that's the beauty of TV and film. Like you always say,
Mhm.
it's relatable. It
Mhm.
takes you to a place or whatever. I mean, yeah, this was it for me. This was
Yeah.
really, 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 really fun to look back at all of these shows that were such a definitive point of our class of 98 kind of, which I swear you're not in class of 98,
I
but today you
mean,
are.
you know what? I'm bringing out
We're going to do
my diploma.
dueling yearbooks next week, next episode or whatever.
Yeah.
But I worked on the yearbook, so I'm sure I'll have more
Mhm.
photos in it than
I'm sure
you.
you will. I think I only have like 2, maybe
I
3.
actually quit photo class to work in the yearbook,
Mhm.
which I sort of regret because while I
Mhm.
loved the yearbook and I got to like make it like exactly what I wanted,
Mhm.
and like have all my friends in it and etc. Who leaves photo class? Like that could have been something for my career now. Like, and I loved it.
Totally.
I was in photo for like 2 semesters, but I should have went to the third and the fourth level.
Right.
I mean, it was
So
fun doing the
funny.
little, what do you call it? What's it called? When you not photosynthesis, what's it called? Develop the
Oh,
photos.
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and the like in the dark room and stuff, like that's cool.
yeah,
Well,
and
in my yearbook, there's even a picture of me at the news desk, like in high school.
oh, she's competing with me. Do you see?
That's a picture of me that's in the yearbook.
She's like, look at me, I'm in the yearbook, and it's a good picture, and I didn't even have to join yearbook for that to happen. It's true. For it to happen for me, I had to like
I think that's
join the
like the
class.
only other picture of me in the yearbook. It's like
Yeah.
my actual like yearbook picture, and then like that one. So I think there's only 2.
Yeah. Last question to wrap this out. We'll just do you as the answer. I'll do it on another episode.
Mhm.
But how much the same are you from that class of 98 era, and how different are you?
Whew. I think I'm pretty much the same. I think I'm just more self-aware now. I feel like but for the most part I feel like I'm the same. I just I mean, I guess that's the only way I can really say it is I just feel like I'm just more self-aware, but pretty much easygoing, kind of the same. I don't know. Anybody that went to
Um,
school with me, if you watch this, you tell me.
that's right. Everyone watches. I would say that I am quite a bit the same with but I really, as I said earlier, I really did care about making that good impression, not getting under anyone's skin, having a great deal of friends. Like I really worked towards it, and I feel like there's a really, if we're being honest and vulnerable, that's what we do on the show, right? There's
Mhm.
just such a small part of me that's like, did I do myself a little bit of disservice by always worrying to appease everyone else? Versus like, why couldn't I take a bigger stance? And I didn't take a stance on anything really. You know what I mean? I just was always go with the flow, nice guy. And I think after
Mhm.
high school, no.
Right,
Once I got into
yeah.
radio, I was still a little bit of a soft, softy those first couple of years, like when we met. But then, those after that happened and I was in radio for a couple of years, like it was fun. And that is when I got my first like whiff of being as confident as I want to be,
Mhm.
knowing that I got to speak up for what I need and what I want, and have a directional goal, et cetera, and not really be worried to piss someone off. And I did not have that in high school. I didn't want
Yeah.
anyone to have issue with me. I wanted to be liked. So
I don't know that I cared all that much. Maybe I mean I did some, but I don't know that it was really like
Yeah.
That big. And again, I rarely went to high school, and I just didn't want to be there. So my
Why
senior
did you-
year, I did
So you were just ditch parties all the time?
all the time, all the time. I
I
mean,
mean,
I
there was
had
a
like
lot.
I had like hundreds of hours to make up, like hundreds.
We both could have been class of 99.
We both could have been. Thank
Okay.
God for my principal at my senior year, because she like saved me, because I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have graduated.
All right. Well, Kelly, you drive me crazy. This episode was complete with lots of memories, a technical glitch that we don't really know what happened, but the ghost keeps following us, and so shut up already. I'm proud of us. Okay, wrapping up episode 41. I will just tell you one more time about Viridian Row, but before I do that, I got to tell you, check out my podcast, because there's so many of them. Pop Culture POV, Randomly with Ronnie Jr. Let's shine a light on it. Let's shine a light on it.com. Everything can be found centrally at randomlyronniejr.com. So please go support it, because this is not the only podcast that I do. I do quite a few, and the link tree will send you to have all the links to all the stuff. So I stay busy, Kel. See, now I sound
Love
like
it.
Dylan. Hey, Kel. Oh, last 90210 fun fact is that Brandon and Dylan were the names of Pamela Anderson's kids.
All right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's what it is. And again, our sponsor is Viridian Row. Creativity never goes out of style. Get you a quote t-shirt. Maybe some of the stuff we talked about could be a custom-made quote as well, in addition to all of their creative artsy stuff. And it is a small business out of Texas, and we support because they support back, and it feels really good. And
Great
they are
Christmas gifts. Great Christmas gifts.
right. I forget that Christmas is coming, but I guess it is.
Mhm.
So yeah, they are our sponsor, so we're thankful for that. All right, we got to go. Last words, Kelly. Tell me something nice.
Let's watch some more 80s movies.
Okay.